Good morning. Welcome to day 3 of our budget hearings. I am Danielle McCray. I'm the councilwoman for the 2nd District as well as the chairwoman for the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Joining us today, we have President Z. Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We also have committee members, Councilman Paris Gray from the 8th District, and also Councilman Mark Parker from the 1st District, Councilwoman Felicia Porter from the 10th District, and Councilman Zach Blanchard from the 11th District, as well as several representatives from the Mayor's Office and the City Council President's Office. Today, we're going to start with our Rec and Parks Agency, and we're going to get right into a presentation from Director Moore.
Good morning, Chairwoman McCray, Council President Cohen, and esteemed council members. Thank you for this opportunity to appear before you today, as I'm joined by members of my senior leadership team who, alongside our committed staff, help drive the mission of Baltimore City Rec and Parks. We're not here today to report business as usual. We're here because in Baltimore, we're transforming rec and parks. Across every corner of our city, we're delivering results, expanding access, revitalizing facilities, and realigning systems to better serve our youth, our seniors, and every resident in between. And we're doing so with intention, strategy, and equity at the center. This year marks a pivotal point in our Rec 2025 strategic plan. We've shifted from reactive fixes to proactive citywide transformation, moving beyond isolated improvements towards a more comprehensive community-centered approach. Our next step is the Baltimore City Playbook, a long-range strategic framework developed over the past 2 years, grounded in data, shaped by staff insight, and informed by community voices. The playbook centers equity as both a value and a practice. Though still in draft form, it will serve as a guiding tool for how we plan, invest, and deliver services across our recreation and park system. It lays the foundation for aligning our people, programs, and places with Baltimore's greatest areas of need, ensuring that access, inclusion, and accountability are built into every aspect of how we operate. It's not just a document, it's a bold blueprint for the future of recreation and parks in Baltimore. We've delivered some of the largest capital investments in our agency's history. This summer alone, we're proud to open 3 brand new pools, Walter P. Carter, Coldstream, and Towanda. These sites represent more than just summer fun. They're hubs for health, safety, and community connection, and we're not done. In 2026, we will cut the ribbons on the Greater Mile Aquatics facility, the 4th new pool currently under construction, expanding citywide access to high-quality aquatics experience. We're also expanding indoor recreation access to 2 new facilities are on track to open in 2026. The Gardenville Recreation Center in Northeast Baltimore and the Congressman Elijah E. Commons Recreation Center, a legacy project in Southwest Baltimore designed to inspire future generations. And we're reopening 3 renovated facilities, Mary Rodman, Parkview Recreation Center, and Chick Webb. This reopening marks a major step towards modernizing our city's aging recreation infrastructure and restoring critical community anchors. All told, we've managed over $100 million in active capital projects, thanks to collaborative support from this council, the Mayor's Office, state and federal partners, and private funders. These aren't just projects, they are promises kept. Baltimore City Recreation and Parks continues to evolve how we engage youth, support families, and meet the diverse needs of our city. We've expanded inclusive programs like therapeutic recreation, launched esports and STEM, and created new spaces for teens. A spring break concert in Druid Hill Park drew over 1,200 youth, proof what's possible when listening and responding. At Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, we believe real transformation starts from within. And this year, we've made meaningful investments in our people, 38 internal promotions, 30% increase in training, and expansion of our lead succession program, preparing the next generation of agency leaders. We're building a culture that leads with care, serves with skills, and reflects the best of Baltimore. At Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, we know trust is built through presence, consistency, and connection. And this year, our community engagement team delivered on all 3. In 2024, our community engagement team held nearly 8,000 events and activities across all 14 council districts, shaping everything from park upgrades to program design. And residents are stepping up as well. 3,294 volunteers contributed over 24,000 hours valued at more than $845,000 in labor to support parks and programs citywide. As we look to FY2026, we're not just maintaining momentum, we're accelerating it. To every staff member who shows up not just to do a job, but to serve out with a purpose, thank you. To every resident who participates, speaks up, and believes in the power of public space, thank you. To every community partner who brings resources and shared commitment, thank you. Together, we're building a stronger, safer, and more connected Baltimore, one step at a time. And with that, I will go right into our PowerPoint presentation. The first slide is a reflection on how our organization is structured. Our next slide speaks about 3 key goals. By June 30th of 2026, our goal is to fully integrate the BCRP playbook in our capital and operational decision-making by adopting the community needs and the site conditions methodology to prioritize investment. The agency will complete public-facing investment plans for the 20th highest need sites and provide training to 100% of the capital planning and recreation leadership team. The second one is that we want to continue to improve our access to transparency for public green spaces. We will be launching by June 30th of 2026 an online tool that will not only manage our outdoor assets as they're accurately listed and map them across our entire agency website. And the third goal is to strengthen our youth engagement and leadership across the city by expanding our out-of-school time program by 15% compared to this time last year. Our first service is our administrative service, 644. That's pretty much where all the administrative support is located. Within that, 2 key highlights is to make sure that we're consistent with the other construction management software that's being used throughout the agencies. There's $181,000 for us to purchase a unifier system. And then also we have $3.6 million that's allocated in state funding. Normally that's our POS funding that helps support IT, engineering services, risk management, and fleet management in the agency. The next service is our 645, which is our aquatics facility. Really always excited to talk about aquatics and how we continue to advance our focus in aquatics. In this site, couple highlights. One, we understand that this year we made a decision to move from 7-day operations in our park pools to 6-day operations. That better helps us maintain our facilities long-term. Also, that yielded a $230,000 savings. Additionally, we have to continue to secure our pools. This year's budget includes $107,000 in additional dollars for security at our pool locations. And then we're excited because we're opening 4 new pools this summer. Walter B. Carter, Towanda, Chickwell, as well as Coldstream. Sorry. The next service is 646. It's our park maintenance service. The key point there is for many years, our facility maintenance has lived underneath the park maintenance service here. This year, with the support of the budget office, we was able to move and create our own facility maintenance service. So you will see a $6.5 million reduction there. There's $1.2 million in POS state funding that's also been moved over to this 912 account. I'm always excited when we can put more money into maintenance. We're increasing our playground maintenance to help support our equipment, a total of $243,000 there. Youth and adult sports is responsible for all of our citywide athletic programming throughout the city. That service this year is currently being supported at the same level as this past year. 648 is community recreation centers. Lots happening in our community recreation centers. There's $2.4 million. As I stated earlier, we have new facilities that's coming online. That's to provide the staffing that's needed. That includes 15 new positions. Also, there's 2.2 in CDBG funding and table games to help support the Dawson Center operations and our STEAM education and our youth summer camps. And then there's an additional $600,000 in educational grants that will help us continue to expand our programs across the city. 649 is our special facilities. You will see a decrease in funding there, and the main focus there is this is based on revenue projections for this upcoming year for 649. 650 is our horticultural service. They're responsible for the Sylvan Arboretum, as well as they're responsible for Rollins Conservatory, as well as maintaining the floral arrangements around the city, as well as is where our greenhouse is located. That service is also being maintained at its current funding level. 651 is our Recreation for Senior Services. This division is responsible ultimately for all the programs for our senior services throughout the city, and we work closely with our partners over at the Health Department to offer programming throughout the city, and that program is also maintaining its same current service level. 652 is our Therapeutic Recreation Service. This division is responsible for our disability community, providing programs across the city for our young and old with disabilities. That service also is currently maintained at its current level. 653 is our park program and events. This is where pretty much our permitting takes place. This is where all of our special events take place. We're eliminating $490,000. That is where the police mounted patrol was sitting, as that is being discontinued in FY2026 budget. And then we reclassed some positions to make us more efficient in the 653 service. 654 is our urban forestry. As we continue to focus on our backlog, but also how we continue to utilize our count small in an effective and efficient way, we are increasing funding $436,000 for additional contract for tree maintenance, as well as for our count small facility. And then our newest facility is our facility maintenance. This is basically where all of our facility maintenance team will be housed this year. And as I stated earlier, majority of this funding came from either state funding or from the existing park maintenance budget where they lived. And with that, Councilwoman, I will yield for questions and discuss.
Thank you, Director Moore. We're going to start with our Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Moore and Dr. Moore. Thank you, your entire team. Always appreciate the partnership between the council and Rec and Park. I also want to start off by just thanking you and Josiah for your full-on commitment to trauma-informed care within the agency. You all were the second agency to undergo extensive training, and I just appreciate the way you embraced it and have continued to do the work even after the formal training ended, continue to do the leadership work. So just want to appreciate you for that. One of the central focuses of these budget hearings has been taking a look at how our agencies use overtime. According to our analysis of the data provided by the administration, overtime expenditures from the general fund at Rec and Park increased from 2.3 million in 2023 to 2.8 in 2024. Among the supplemental legislation that the council was asked to adopt to cover over budgeted expenses made by city agencies in FY24 was approximately 7 million supplemental to cover overtime and contract services at Rec and Park. How much in overtime are you projecting to occur in fiscal year 2025?
This current year,
Current year.
on track to be somewhere around, based on as of May, we're at 2.6. So, and I want to highlight that the key there is our overtime is consistent with different events that happen throughout the city. Sorry. Our overtime is consistent with events that happen throughout the city. So when we
Say the number again, just because
yes,
your mic
it's
was off.
2.6 as of May.
2.6 million.
Yes,
Okay.
as of May 31st. So what I was going to say though, as part of this, is that our overtime is consistent with various events that happens. Good example is this past weekend we had a storm. That storm yielded that me having to bring forestry in to help make sure that we properly clear streets, remove trees. One of the big things I want to highlight is that in August of last year, if we all remember, there was a severe windstorm. We had over 400 SRs. That event alone approximately cost us about $500,000 in operation between overtime and equipment that was used. When you look at our recreation facilities, we're constantly being focused on the engagement strategies. That also plays a factor as well. So we have an idea, but I mean, we do understand. We will continue to monitor. We'll continue to look at overtime, but we do understand that some of these is going to happen because of events and activities that our agency still has to operate.
So just to be clear, your expectation is $2.6 million and that you will be seeking a supplemental to support that service?
I can't give you the projected June. That was basically through May. I was giving you actual numbers through May of what we've accounted for overtime.
Okay, so you got 2.6 is through May, and you got June, so it'll be closer to
Close to
3.
where I feel like we'll be close to where we were last year, yes, which was a 2.8, I believe is what it was.
Okay.
So, Council President, if I may just add on the director. So, Rec and Parks for fiscal 25 is projected, as of our third quarter projections, projected to have a $5.9 million shortfall. I will note that Rec and Parks is one of the agencies that we've been working closely with to slow spending. And so, I do not have an updated projection on the floor at this moment. However, I know that spending has slowed. A couple of things regarding the relationship of overtime and this projected deficit. The largest portion of the deficit in Rec and Parks for fiscal 25 is related to maintenance costs spread throughout the agency, but particularly in our parks area. And the deficit here is being driven by external contracts more so than overtime. And when we look at their overtime trends in particular, if we look at calendar year 25 compared to calendar year 24 for the same period, Rec and Parks overtime, they've only utilized 12% of overtime hours compared to the number of hours that they used for all of calendar year 24. So this is an agency where we're seeing the reliance on overtime drop off dramatically in 25.
Can you just help me reconcile the two numbers? I heard 2.6 from the director and I heard 5.9 from you, Director Larson. Is the discrepancy contract fee? Like what's the gap?
Yeah, so the director is speaking specifically looking at overtime. I'm talking about their budget in totality.
Okay.
And so I guess what I'm sharing is that the driver of the deficit in fiscal 25 has been more so the use of contractual services for various maintenance tasks. And what we have seen with the department's overtime utilization, especially if we were to look at the first half of calendar year 25, is that it is down dramatically compared to a year ago.
Understood. Okay, so the 2.6 is just OT and the rest is largely contracting?
Yes. Yes, there were a number of unplanned maintenance items that are driving the expenditures up for fiscal 25.
Okay, understood. Appreciate that. Thanks for the explanation to you both. Director, I will just say that I think one of the real pushes that we're trying to make is to cut down on unexpected expenses to try to keep every agency within their budget to some degree. I realize festivals and other things come up, but I think it is extremely important that we have a semblance of honesty when we pass the budget and that we're not millions of dollars over in expenditures. I do also want to say that to the extent possible, and we've talked about this on the Board of Estimates, it is my hope and expectation that we are reducing reliance on contractors as much as is humanly possible and supporting our own internal workforce. It is extremely important that we not pay an outside vendor several times more than we could pay our own workforce. And as a council that's really committed to supporting not just DPW sanitation workers, but also Rec and Park and all of our city's workforce, I'm just gonna flag that I am sincerely hoping to see us reduce the amount of contract spending in the upcoming years. I'm going to have a couple other questions. I'm going to defer till the next round, but again, I want to appreciate your responsiveness, always in dialogue with council members. And I would just say, though, that it continues to be a frustration for this council when we have to do supplementals, when there's millions in overtime, and then when there's millions in contracting. But again, thank you, Director, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Director, you said that what was largely driving the deficit is contractual work within park maintenance. I'm not sure if this is for you, Director Moore, or for you, but what within park maintenance and outside of park maintenance, are there any other areas as well within the contractual support that's driving it? So to go back, just examples of the maintenance that's taken place. Also, if there are any other areas within Recs and Parks that is also causing a deficit due to contractual spending.
I mean, the other area, I'll just speak quickly and then turn it over to Director Moore. I mean, the other area that was an unanticipated item for fiscal 25 was the fire at Camp Small. And so there was cleanup and recovery associated with that unplanned event that was performed by contractual crews. Those are the types of events we can't anticipate in the budget, and we have to react to once we get into the fiscal year. But I believe Director Moore can jump in and talk a little bit more about the pressures that they're seeing on the maintenance side.
And I think just to clarify, it's park maintenance because you remember earlier I spoke about facility maintenance lives under park maintenance budget currently. And so those unexpected examples is the HVAC system that we had to replace at Virginia S. Baker. It's roofs that we're having to replace at different rec centers, different buildings. One of the positives this year in this current budget is that we're in capital are setting aside funding for HVAC systems and roofs that will help us offset some of that expense. But majority of that is associated with maintenance of these buildings, even though it falls under park maintenance. And which is one of the reasons why we want to pull facility maintenance out so we could better track what's happening in facility maintenance and manage that. So that's really what a lot of those contracted work is for. It is for building conditions.
Thank you both. I want to shift to Service 654, Urban Forestry. I want to first just get an understanding of a performance measure, and that's the percentage of tree-related SRs closed on time. To start, where's your agency? The target for FY25 is 50%. So where is your agency as of today? What percentage are you at today?
You said 654, did I hear you correct?
Correct, urban forestry.
Currently in, that number. She wants to know where we are with how close are we to the target of 50% as of this year? Do you know on the service report?
Just to clarify, it's the 50%, is that the closure rate for service requests?
Yes.
Just want to make sure I understand the question.
Yes, and also for every agency rep, for your first time speaking, can you just state your first and last name and just your role within the agency? It is for FY25 targeted. It is your first performance measure. It's only 2 listed.
Okay. Good morning, Matt Rescott, Chief of Forestry. Sorry about that. The last number I had, we were at about 70% when we updated that for the last Clean Stat meeting, but I don't have the exact number right now. I can say that we've been working with 311 team to clarify some of the SLAs for our tree maintenance and formerly called tree inspection service requests so that we can better capture, I think, how long it actually takes to do the work. The last I checked, we were above 50%.
You guys were at 70%.
We were as of the last clean stat meeting.
Can you guys just send me the,
So, Councilwoman, what we'll do is that we'll get that and send you the accurate information where we are as of today.
so if you guys are trending at 70%, then the backlog that you guys typically have regarding trees, tree stumps, where are you at on that?
I can tell you our backlog, I got some notes on that.
Perfect.
Our current backlog for trees, we have currently in open SRs for stump removers, 2,346. For inspections, pruning removals, we're at 1,639. And then, I'm trying to find, I thought I had the notes for what's our current open SRs. What that equates to is to completely remove our current open SR backlog, it's about $600,000 to remove that complete backlog. What our team focuses on is getting our contractors to focus on the backlog, but every time that we have storms, then that sets us back even more because that slows down that process towards the backlog. What we're focused on with Matt Rescott and his team is I've asked him to look at if we could bring on one additional crew that just focus on backlog, what would that cost be? How many would they be able to get? And for some reason, my notes are slightly off, but I know, for example, stumps, we average about 1,000 removals a year, but right now we're creating about 1,200 new stump removals every year, so we're in a deficit there. So what we are definitely looking at is how we can put more funding towards the stump removals so that we can not continue to see the backlog grow. At one point in time, we talked about when someone go and touch the tree, that they will also remove the stump, but it's two different teams that does that. So we are focused on trying to address this backlog, but I want to also note that I've asked our team to look at industry standards, and it's extremely important that I just highlight here. In our nearby city of Philadelphia, they have a $5 million operating budget similar to ours. They have right now a 2-year backlog. We're at 8 months on our service requests. You have someone like DC has a $25 million operating budget for its forestry team. Their backlog is 2 months. So the more you invest, the more that you can bring manpower into this to help reduce your backlog. And that's just something I just wanted to highlight too, as we continue to make sure that we're in line with other cities of comparable size as well.
And you said the 600,000 is just correct me if I'm wrong, was that for if contractors address that issue? Or is that for if we, an in-house team, addresses those issues?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Councilwoman.
So earlier you mentioned $600,000 would be able to bring us current, but would that be the cost for contractors to address the issue? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for a committee request, if you can provide a list of the outstanding street tree pruning work orders, the assigned contractors, if they have one at that time, the origin and the due date. Number 2, a list of outstanding street tree removal work orders with the assigned contractor the origin and due date. And last, a list of outstanding tree pits to be cut with the assigned contractor, the origin date, and the due date.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm repeating this. You want to know the current list of removals, origination date, due date, and assigned contractor. The same for tree pits, outstanding. And the first one you asked for was service requests. Is that related to pruning requests then?
So I would want them in the three categories: street tree pruning,
Okay.
the street tree removals, and the tree pits.
Got it.
And Director Moore, what's an adequate amount of time for you? Would you guys be able to put that together, say within 1 to 2 weeks? Okay, I see your folks nodding.
That's a yes? Yes. Give us 2 weeks. Let's say 2 weeks.
Okay, so we'll put that down for 2 weeks. And are you guys able to also break those down by district as well, by council district?
Jason already has it, right?
We should be.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, and thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairwoman, may I just ask a clarifying question
Sure.
on the follow-up? So in addition to that data for the pruning, the removal, and the tree pits, would you also like to see the updated data on the percent of SRs closed on time year-to-date for
I would
fiscal
love to.
25?
Thank
Okay.
you,
Thank you.
Director. So thank you both. We're going to get to Councilman Gray for the next question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I start, I just want to give a big shout out to Rec and Parks, especially your park maintenance crew, who you guys have all of Lincoln Park with a band of maybe 10 or 12 people, not including every other park. And you guys have done an amazing job as far as cutting down on the amount of illegal dumping that has occurred along the park, because you guys are being very proactive and just picking it up. And just hearing from the folks around the park, they're generally pleased with the improvements. So a big shout out to Larry Washington and all those folks. And I just wanted to just give you guys your just due. But regarding park maintenance, and I think you talked about this in your presentation, but I just wanted to make sure that we got some type of definitive answer or clarification. With Service 646, there was a notable decrease of $6 million, around $400,000 in overall funding from all sources over the last few years. How is Rec and Parks planning to maintain the same level or improve quality of park maintenance with the decrease in funding?
Great question, Councilman Parrish. Great. The $6.5 million was money that was allocated for our facility maintenance team. So it wasn't allocated to each of the individual yards. Their budget, their funding was not touched. The 6.5 was pulled from where our facility maintenance team, which is all the individuals, our electricians, our painters, the people that maintains our buildings. And we moved that funding to Service 912. So the same funding levels in the yards that they've had in prior years.
Perfect. And is that the same to be asked for the special facility maintenance as well? As far, because when I think about it, I think about Carrie Mary Nature Center and the conditions it's in already, and I see there's a decrease in funding in that, and for special facility maintenance as well. And that just has me worried that if it's already in rough shape and we're taking funding away from those facilities, how are we supposed to improve upon or fix any deferred maintenance or any type of issues that are happening? I know with Carrie Mary Nature Center, there was a water leak of some type last week? Could you just go into the explanation for the special facilities maintenance and the decrease in funding?
Well, as I stated, special facilities is an enterprise account. That account money is based off its revenue. And so what we had to do was we've adjusted the revenue based on the projections for this year. In that 649 account, it's just not Carrie Murray. It's Carrie Murray, it's Shake and Bake, it's Mount Pleasant. And so the service will, as far as if there's a maintenance issue in any of our buildings, they will be serviced. But that reduction is really to right size to make sure that we're in line with the projected revenue for this upcoming year.
Okay, thank you. And then overall, with the decline in the little bit we do get from the state, but from the federal funding, do you guys have like at least a 4-year plan, but a 5 or 10-year plan, like a resiliency plan to kind of tackle or just to be ready for the new fiscal realities that we're facing, not just as a state, but as a country?
Yeah. So what the piece I will highlight is that the rec playbook really speaks a lot about that. So yes, we're working on devising a plan. Positive for us is that we receive some federal funding, but it's not as significant as maybe some of our other sister agencies.
Those are my questions. I just wanted to make sure we had those things on the record. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Blanchard. And I'm sorry, I also want to make sure that we welcome some council people who joined us earlier. That's going to be Councilwoman Ramos from the 14th District. Our Vice President, Councilwoman Sharon Green Middleton from the 6th District, and also Councilman Mark Conway from the 4th District. And Councilman Blanchard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director, and your team. Speaking of good things in district, obviously got a ton of rec and parks projects on the capital side going on in the 11th district. This upcoming FY with Robert C. Marshall, Solo Gibbs, Rashfield, that I'm extremely both appreciative and, as you know, very interested in supporting. Kind of along that and the challenges where I learned first about this problem, and I know it's a citywide problem, but so bids and contracts for projects. And I learned about this through the Robert C. Marshall challenge with getting the bid and everything. I know that the finance department is looking at this as a citywide challenge, but can you just talk through, from Rec and Parks perspective, why it's so difficult to get any bids, to get competitive bids, and what the city should be looking at to help fix the process?
I'm going to start and then I'm going to volley that question over to Adam, who deals with this a lot. But I think what we've seen over the years is sometimes is the size of the project, and if there's specialized interest in a project. This last Elijah Commons project, what we did was we reached out to some of our other colleagues to understand. We reached out to DC, for example, and they shared with us some of their general contractors. Some of those contractors actually did qualify, and then they put in a bid. So for Elijah Commons, we actually had 4 or 5 bids, and believe it or not, one of the new vendors actually won that bid. So I think what our team is going to continue to do is to talk to our colleagues in the industry and making sure that we build up and support our other city agencies. I think is all of us working together to find additional vendors to maybe to bid on our projects. But what we've seen over the years is it's the same 2 or 3 that's been bidding on these projects, and sometimes they get maxed out in the number of projects. Like we got one vendor that's actually building all of our outdoor swimming pools right now. And that same vendor also is doing one of our rec centers. At some point in time, they are going to expand their manpower. So we want to continue to make sure that we have competitive contracts and competition, and we want to make sure that we continue to push all of our projects that we have out into the area. So we'll just continue to work with boards and commissions to help try to bring in additional contractors. Adam, I'll yield to you if there's more that you want to share with that.
Yes, good morning. Adam Borman, Chief of Capital Development. This is a difficult question to answer. For me, there's a long list of challenges. First of all, it's being the pre-qualification process that Director Moore alluded to. I do want to lift up the Office of Boards and Commissions. They've been holding kind of workshops over the last couple months, bringing all the agencies together to figure out where we can kind of overcome some of those hurdles. Separately from that, been working with the Office MOID. They're in the process of rewriting the Green Book. There's some ancient language in there that is also a challenge for new and old.
Sorry, what's the Green Book?
So that is the specification manual that has to do with contracting as well as technical specs for construction. It was last revised in 2006 and really written with a focus on highways and bridges. So it doesn't always adapt well to our projects or DGS for that matter. And then lastly, I'm just highlighting a couple here. Our bidding process is on paper. We are archaic. We are not putting out the contracts online for anyone to see. You literally have to come to my office and pick up the book. And then when it comes to time to bid, you have to deliver it to City Hall by 11 a.m. sharp, or you will not be accepted. So for me, we just got to get with the times and make, basically just get out of our own way.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think that this may be a good opportunity in the near future for some sort of hearing or whatnot, because we really need to, it's clearly not good for Rec and Parks. It's obviously not good for any of the council members or for this. Probably no one's winning here, and we just need to probably shine a spotlight on this so y'all can get back to doing God's work in an easier fashion. Second question. So middle school sports, which, as you know, I'm extremely enthusiastic about the growth in. And I know it's a collaborative relationship between city schools and Rec and Parks. Director, can you just talk through exactly who's doing what between city schools and Rec and Parks?
I think we're still working through that and figuring out. Me and the Deputy Mayor Merrill, we actually, in one of our recent meetings, we spoke about how Rec and Park could be more engaged and make sure that we're aligning and not duplicating what schools are doing. He agreed, and we talked about some strategies that we can look at there for their upcoming season for some of the sports that they're having a hard time finding vendors to fill. Maybe that's our inroad to that. We do have a smaller version of middle school sports, but we're not interfering with what school is doing. I think what we've done in the past is we've had more charter schools that played in our basketball league. We just had a volleyball league that finished, and I believe we're doing flag football now, but don't hold me on that. So I think the suggestion that the deputy mayor suggests that we collaborate and look at how we can see what schools are having a hard time filling and see how we can fill that gap and support it. So that is our intention, is to do exactly that. It's to look at this new RFP that's about to come out for middle school sports and see how Baltimore City Rec and Parks can be supportive, and that we're not having, programs that are duplicative of each other.
Okay, so are you usually covering charter schools? And is that like a gap, or am I misunderstanding what you were saying there?
No, what we do is we'll open it up, but what we've had in the past have been more charter schools than we have had public schools. But there are some public schools because it's a lot of middle schools in Baltimore. So we have had some middle schools, but I think there's the school option first, but then if that option is not available, then they will look at our program. And so we're just trying to see how we can merge and be a partner with schools. And that's what we're working on.
Okay, so middle school sports is mainly being run by city schools right now?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I was maybe misunderstanding.
We have a small cog in that wheel, small cog, but we want to be a bigger cog, but we want to work in conjunction with schools, and that's why the deputy mayor should suggest that we look at this current RFP that comes out. And I think that's a good way for us to show the relationship and strengthen relationship with schools, because I think we all see the value of middle school sports.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for my tardiness as well. So I might have, you might have covered something that I'm dealing with my question. So first of all, I just want to thank you and your team for all of the improvements that you are doing throughout the city. I mean, it's really starting to show, especially in our rec centers, our playgrounds. Can't wait for the opening of all of these new aquatic centers. It's just going to be a full circle of just improvements around the city. I guess one thing I would like you to make you aware of. You know, I also serve on the Commission of Aging, and you also have a representative that also serves. I think it would be good, because we're keeping a consistency in naming, if you, instead of saying recreation for seniors, if you start using the word older adults, because we're trying to make that consistent basically around the entire city, that we start saying older adults and not seniors. And do you have a problem with that, or? Okay, thank you.
No, ma'am, I have no problem. We'll just make that, we'll make that note now for going forward, and we'll work with BBMR to make sure we can change that service request.
Thank you. And the other thing, I guess just some update with urban forestry, focused around, I know you're creating and doing more partnerships. And of course, apprenticeship has really been a forefront in Rec and Parks. And you have a wonderful horticultural program that, at least the one that I know of at the Silburn Arboretum. Are there, and I know we did have that problem at one point, once these people get their certificates and all, they tend to move on for, you know, higher jobs in surrounding areas. Is there a mission to try to help with working with that piece?
Good morning, Jasiah Smith, Chief of Staff here at Rec and Parks. So as it relates to retention.
Yes.
Yes, as it relates to retention, we've been really working on the culture at Rec and Parks, right? So it's clear through research that people do leave jobs for money, but also culture. Culture is a big driver on why people want to stay and retain at an organization. Over the last year and a half, we've been working, one, through our trauma-informed care training, but then two, doing some real deep cultural assessments about what is working at Rec and Parks and what things that we need to lean into. We know that we do have some attrition from people going to different things, but they usually stay within the city. I like to say Rec and Parks is the city's recruitment agency. People come to Rec and Parks, get skilled up, and end up going to other sister agencies. So we're not seeing a lot of our people like tree trimmer and tree trimmer apprentice, because we're the agency that has those positions, but we've really been leaning into what the culture of what it means to work at Rec and Parks, how much training we're giving to our people, what it feels like to come to work, to making sure that our staff is trained, that we're really leaning into how we appreciate staff. So while Director Moore focuses on building beautiful things, I focus on making sure that we have the right talent and they have a culture that they want to stay in. So I feel comfortable where we are. We just completed the survey, both with our consultants as a part of the playbook, and then additionally, some work with DHR on culture. So we have identified areas where we need to really lean in and to have some thought partnership with our leaders about making things feel different for employees. So the other big thing is salary. So we've been a partner with DHR and a partner with the administration to continue to look at salaries, how compression issues show up, what happens when people are promoted. One of the things that our HR team has been really, really good at is internal promotions. Last year alone, we had 38 internal internal promotions. The year before, we had 39. We're one of the only agencies who has a true succession planning program where we're training the next agency leaders. And those people who participate in our lead program, they are going on to take up the vacancies in the agency. So we are filling our vacancies in a way that we think is helpful. The other things we can't control, like salary, we're working with the administration and our partners at DHR to make sure we're being very aggressive in that position point too.
Thank you, and that works hand in hand with, I guess, forestry and trying to, it's been a shortage of people trying to work with, cutting our trees and so on. Is there an update with that? Do you need more people?
So we always need more people. What we're trying to do is to work with organizations across the city who have commitments to workforce development. We recently started a conversation with Requity. They have young people who are coming out of high school who are skilled in the trades. We have a new relationship with Turnaround Tuesday for people who are returning to get them back to work. Our program with our partners at Muncie for Citizens Behind the Wall has been phenomenal. So we're really leaning into creating a new place where we look for talent, right? So yes, the greater good of the world, but we want to look right here in Baltimore and then partner with organizations who are already helping to skill the people up. So we're matching skilled people with our vacancies. We still have some hills to climb as it relates to that. My HR team was able to pull just some information about how hard it is to fill some positions. We have recruited for our small engine mechanic 13 times, our building repairer 12 times, our carpenter 8 times, our storekeeper 6 times, our electrical mechanic technician 7 times. So we are posting positions. So now we're gonna go to growing our own talent. So I look forward to coming back to you with the success of those programs.
What exactly do you think is the problem with?
So skilled trades across the nation, we're in an interesting position between the available talent and the positions that are available. We have the added wrinkle of our salaries just as a whole. I know the administration is working on doing some salary upgrades, particularly to the skilled trade positions, but there is a disconnect between a skilled tradesperson and the starting salary. So for us, it makes sense for a younger professional, a younger high school graduate or recently out of a trade program, that would make sense. But the skilled labor that's available, there's a price tag attached to that. And right now, we are not yet competitive, even though I understand there's lots of salary studies that are being contemplated to address that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone, and thanks again for all of your help with lots of things that are happening in our district. As a matter of fact, Chief Brown and I were dealing with a tree issue on Saturday night at 11 o'clock that fell on, it was a big drama thing that nobody needs to know about right now. But anyway, so the dedication of your staff, I think, has been really wonderful. So I really appreciate it. And of course, all the great new apparatus and playgrounds and everything too. So I appreciate that as well. But going on with the staffing, following up with the Vice President's question, the Ranger program is extremely important, particularly in my district, and I'm sure my other colleagues feel the same way. And my understanding is that we've lost some people in that program, and we're trying to hire. Can you help us with understanding what's going on with the Ranger program and when we'll have full staffing and what other supports you need? Because you recall, Director, I think it was one of my first budgets where we did not have the Ranger program, and every single one of us said, you need to bring it back. You did. And so we want to continue to support it. So what's the status of the program? And I also couldn't see it in the budget. I don't know where it fits, what service it fits in. So that would be helpful to know as well.
So I'll acknowledge the Ranger question, then I'll yield. I think I know where that service line, but I want to confer to make sure. But our Rangers now are currently they're full staff. We have 4 Rangers and 1 supervisor. We did have some turnover, and there was some downtime around between November and February, but now we have just recently hired our last Ranger vacancy, so now we have the 4 Rangers and the Ranger supervisor back, and that team is going through a training with DNR, I'm sorry, because we wanted to make sure that our rangers are aligned with also how the state rangers function. So that's something that the prior supervisor started, so we're gonna just pick that up and continue to grow that. The service account for rangers are under,
I think it's like outdoor
some risk, but is that?
administration.
Administration. I'm sorry, it's under 644, under security and risk. And they're funded by POS.
Okay. They are funded up by program open space
Yes,
funding? Okay. Any chance to expand that a little bit? Because 4 rangers for 200 and some parks is difficult.
Man, it's something we'll continue to look at, but we only have so much funding that's limited to POS funding, and we have many things we're trying to do with POS funding, but that's something that we are constantly looking at of how we address our staff across the board. And I think that's why it's so important. The BCRP playbook really talks a lot about staffing and how we should align our staffing models, and that's something that we are eagerly working through the draft form to get it to a form where we can present to council and administration. Everyone adopts that plan of how we can address going forward.
Now, I know some of the turnover of the rangers was probably as a result of the behavior of some of my constituents, and I want to apologize for that, given the situation in the Stony Run. But I'm hoping that we can bring them back to deal with that issue, and we can talk about that offline. But I really want to make sure that the enforcement, particularly of the off-leash dog stuff, is happening. So what's the role of what's the enforcement powers of the rangers so that we're all clear in terms of what the rangers can do relative to dog issues, but really anything else?
I mean, I think that's a tricky question. Our rangers is to engage. Our goal is to engage our residents. While the Rangers has the ability to write $250 tickets, we have not had a strong success rate with engaging off-leash dog owners, because in order to write a ticket, you have to have someone's ID. And so what our rangers do is they will engage. I think me and you have actually stood on a tree and spoke to both sides of that coin about off-leash dogs. And so I think what our team is going to continue to do is work closer with the council and the districts that have the concerns. I know in the past we've done some stuff in conjunction with BPD and animal control, but dog owners are smart too, the off-leash dog owners, right? When they see the teams coming, they will leash them. They'll stay for a period of time, but eventually our teams move on, and then they are back off leash. So I think that's an ongoing strategy that we have to continue to try to address, how we address off-leash dogs. But our rangers, I want to stress that our job is we encourage them to engage with our citizens, connect with them, then being more of the enforcement power of, here I come, I'm going to write your ticket. I think that is not the most effective way for our rangers at this current time as we continue to strengthen our program.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to make sure I understood
Yes, ma'am.
where you were on that. And then just a quick second question about the issue around the playbook. You had mentioned that you're still working on it. You've been talking about the playbook for the last couple of years now, so I'd love to figure out and know a little bit better time frame of when we're going to see the first draft, so that we can, or the next draft, I should say, so we can comment on it and be a part of the work that you're doing on that. Because I think it's very exciting what you're doing in terms of putting out a mission and a vision and your plan to put it together, because we want to be a part of that.
I'm going to yield that question over to volley that question to administration. I know we're working close with administration, but Tyler, I think instead of answering that question, I think that's something that. Okay, Deputy Mayor's here. Okay.
Good morning, JD Merrill, Interim Deputy Mayor, Equity, Health, and Human Services. We are going to be aligning the release of the playbook with the release of the 10-year financial plan. We want to make sure that we have a long-term plan, not just for the city's finances, but also for Rec and Parks, and those two plans are working together. And so the playbook, as you acknowledged, is further along in the development. but we asked Rec and Parks to pause on it while we develop the 10-year financial plan in terms of its release. So it'll be coming soon, and appreciate the offer for engagement, and we'll find a way, perhaps prior to its release, to engage council on it.
Thank you. 10-year financial plan, then, I guess, at some point, well, we can talk about it. We've been talking about it, but I mean, I'm trying to get a time frame from when we can expect all of this.
I believe the CAO spoke to that in her hearing. It is on. And the draft of the 10-year financial plan is being finalized with the goal of publishing either later this summer or early fall.
Okay, great, thank you. I have more questions, but I'll wait till next round. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Parker?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, friends, especially my first district Rec and Park staff are with us this morning. Always good to see you. I wanted to follow up on two lines of inquiry, one from Councilperson Gray and one from our chair this morning. Let's start with forestry, with where Councilwoman McCray was speaking with you all. Ms. Rescott, you mentioned that with the 70% rate of SR completion and the assigned time, part of that was because of a necessary adjustment to SLAs. Can you describe what that adjustment was, just so we have some sense of what's shifted?
Sure. And just to clarify, the 70 was the closure rate presented at CleanStat. I'm going to follow up with you all on what that is. But as far as the SRs and what our SLAs are, so we have 4 different service requests. 3 of them are urgent, so those we're generally trying to close out within a day. The work is almost always done within 1 or 2 days. The other service request, the one that most of our SRs come through, is the tree inspection. The SLA for that was only 30 days. But that 30 days applied to the number of days our inspectors had to do the inspection. They might generate a work order out of that. That work order goes into our backlog, and our backlog right now is about 8 to 9 months. We can't close out service requests until that work is completed, it's been QA'd and invoiced. So you can imagine how that can affect what our closure rate is for SRs. So what we've done is we changed the name from tree inspection to tree maintenance to better reflect what the work actually is. And then we adjusted the SLA to 10 months to capture the 30-day inspection timeframe plus essentially what our backlog is right now, which we've been at for about a year. A couple years ago, we were double the backlog. And by backlog, I mean essentially where our oldest tree maintenance service requests are when we look at the list. And most of those were around 8 to 9 months. That is not including stumps. Does that help?
It is.
Okay.
Director Moore, you had mentioned, and I appreciate you touching on the progress on the backlog and what it looks like historically. I know Director Moore gave us kind of the current numbers on that, but it's good to have the context. Director Moore, you mentioned that it seemed like there had been some conversation around what an additional crew would be and what the cost might be to bring up and running and to continue making that progress. Do we have a sense of what that, we talked about $600K would be on contracted services. What would the cost of a crew be, just so we can think about both of those?
I'm gonna pass it back to Matt to share that answer with you.
I would need to figure that out. I don't want to just throw something out there right now. I do just want to mention the cost of our backlog right now, which between pruning and removals is about 2,700 work orders. So the 600,000 that's the cost of the outstanding tree removal work orders. We also have 250,000 for pruning work orders. So the total right now of our backlog, not including stumps, stumps is about another 800,000, and open work orders we have. So just for the tree maintenance side, so the above ground stuff, we're looking at about $850K right now of outstanding work orders.
Following up then on Councilperson Gray's questions around this move from 646 into the new 912 and all the rest. Director Moore, I appreciated you clarifying that essentially that 7389425 number that's moved over to 912 is essentially the same percentage amount that we had in FY24-25, just moved to its own place, right? Looking in the details on 646, is that coming from under activities? I see Parks Natural Resources Management, and that was 12 million actual in 24, 7 million budgeted in 25, and then drops to 0. That's that activity. Okay, I was looking for the word maintenance in there somewhere, so I just wanted to make sure. In as much as we were at 12 million actual in 24, we heard from the budget director that, and from Director Moore, that was an area of overspending this year. Can someone say what the actual 25 year-to-date spending on that Parks Natural Resource Management is? And I want to be able to compare that to the budgeted 912 of 7.4 million and make sure that we're in the ballpark. I know there was some mention of capital funds also being available, but yeah, what's our year-to-date, I suppose, in Parks Natural Resource Management FY25?
So we are projecting that activity will incur $9.6 million of expenditures in fiscal 25. As of the end of the third quarter, they had spent just over $7 million.
Okay. And so then, in as much as this year it's 9.6 and this new service line, because we don't have historic numbers there that are specific to that service line, is at 7.4 approximately. Do we anticipate expenditures actually being less, or are there other resources? You mentioned capital. Are there other resources that are, if there is a gap between what we expect and this number, just talk us through that.
So our goal is to try to stay within the 7.4, but we do have a RIC system that's an aging system. And while this year in capital, we have money set aside for HVAC systems and we have money set aside for roofs, then there's the unexpected. But our goal is always to stay within the budget, but it is those unexpected things. So that's our goal. But I can't sit here today and say 100% that that's where we'll end up this year. Hopefully so, but we do have an aging facility throughout the city. So
and a long facility list, a very long facility. So I appreciate that. I just want to name, from 12 million actual to maybe 9+ million actual to 7.4. I certainly hope that's where we get, but want to be mindful, especially with the new service line, that we're being as conservative and as careful as possible there, so that we're setting you all up for success in reaching it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Conway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Good to see you, Director. One, I want to thank you and your team for all the great work you do. Really appreciate the time you've served with the city and the progress that you've made with the department. You've been a true partner all the way through, and I just wanted to first appreciate you for that and your team. I want to follow up actually on the tree question and tree maintenance question. This has been an issue every year that I've been on the council, been an issue before I came on the council. To me, it seems like we're broken here. And this is not a judgment on you, your leadership, or otherwise, but I think we're just not getting it right here. I don't think we fund forestry well enough, or we don't have a system that appropriately equips forestry to deal with the millions of trees that we have to maintain across the city. And Matt, can you clarify for the numbers that you gave us? You said there were 850,000 outstanding work orders, or it would cost us $850,000 to clear out the backlog?
The 850K is the cost.
The cost.
And that's based on essentially the line item cost that we have in our maintenance contract.
I understand. So I think there's a couple things here that further add to this context. If we recall, a couple of years ago, we wiped out the backlog to start new. So there's a lot of stuff that's no longer there that has been wiped away, and we started fresh, and we're still now with a pretty significant backlog. What it tells me is that we don't even come close to appropriately funding the forestry division. And I understand we have big priorities. We want to see our kids playing in parks. We want to see our kids with wonderful rec centers and all the likes. The problem for me is when we see that happen, we just further dig a hole. We dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole. So I want to see some real solutions here. I think we need to be creative, because otherwise we're looking at throwing money at this problem, and money's not going to solve it because we don't have it, or we're going to have to find the money. And that creativity, we're just not there yet. And I hate to come back every year and to rag on the forestry division when they don't have the money to do the job that we're asking them to do. And I'll tell you, it was funny, before I joined the council, many of you guys know I ran a tree company, a tree nonprofit. And one of the first things I did right before I started on the council is I requested a couple of trees in front of my house. I still don't have those trees. I'm not worried about it. I'll live. But what's telling for me, it's been 4.5 years now. And it just tells me that the system's broken here. And if we're setting an expectation for our constituents that they're just not going to see these things done, a 10-month wait time in the best case scenario is just not reasonable. I mean, people have forgotten about the issue by then, and they don't expect it to happen. So I think we got to think about what we can do to truly meet a reasonable standard here. I don't think 10 months is reasonable. I don't think 6 months is reasonable. Maybe 3, maybe 2. But I'm speaking for all my colleagues here, probably that I don't think that's reasonable. So I don't know how to address that issue yet. Once again, this is no judgment on the department or the division. I think we just realize we're in a pretty tough situation here, but I just want to say that's just not acceptable to me. You're welcome to say anything you want. Yeah.
I hear you, Councilman Conway, but I do, one of the things I think, I'm not sure if you was here when I shared that earlier, is that we are asking our team to look at what is industry standards. And earlier I did share what cities that's even bigger than ours, like a Philadelphia, I mean, they're a 24-month backlog. Like their response time is 24 months. Similar budget to ours. But then you have someone like a DC that has a 2-month backlog, but they're 5 times our budget as well. And they have contract crews and other things. I want us to acknowledge, though, that 3 years ago, we was talking about a 17, 18-month backlog. We've gotten that backlog down to 8 to 9 months. So I think we're not where we want to be, but we have shown progress in that area in forestry, and there has been some slight investments in forestry. So would love to continue to be a partner with you as we discuss this strategy, but I do want to highlight that there has been some progress in forestry, seeing where our backlog is now versus 2 years ago when we discussed this. So,
sure.
And can I just add as well, too, we are experiencing more storms that are impacting trees, not just in Baltimore, across the country. So what that looks like in real time, for the one storm that we had on August the 3rd, 2024, we spent $500,000 in one event, right? So if you do that, the same storm that hits Baltimore City is hitting Baltimore County and Montgomery County. So the available contract queues are then stretched thin, right? So as we build and our team is being creative to address our backlog, it's further complicated by our realities. So at the same time that we are working intently to take our response time down from where it was 2 years ago, we have this added complication that we can't necessarily plan for of how storms are showing up in our city, right? So we have global warming that's having more storms. We have an agile team, and we're relying heavily on contractors. Those same contractors are serving this entire region. So every time we come to this body and we give you a number, there is frustration because we come back because that number was only good the day we gave it to you. Because the season changes, the storms get more complicated, so the numbers we thought would solve the backlog, by the time we get it through procurement or ready to spend it, it really addresses a quarter of it. And then the actual available contractors outside of our own crews, right? Just the amount of available people to do this type of work, I don't think it's prepared for what the environment is giving us, right? So I do want to just caution that the team is really working really hard to make sure that we're being responsive, but there are these things that we cannot control for. We'll always be transparent in our experience, but it is going to, I think, require us to continue to look at it together and to know that we're going to have to continue to adjust the plan as we see what these new storms and each season brings us something different. Sometimes it's lots of down trees, sometimes it's lots of sagging trees. So we are preparing for what we think will come. What we've seen over the last 2 years is even our best guess is bad. So we're asking for continual flexibility and just to continue to work together. One of the things we want to lean into, though, is to making sure that we have crews that can help us internally. We need to continue to look at our apprenticeship program. It's a 2-year rigorous program. We've seen more success recently, but those are the type of things we're trying to do to be agile and creative about what our current reality is. We know we have this backlog. We know resources are what they are, but trying to figure out how we can continue to make our team responsive and then to lean into our contractors in a way that maximizes our money, our dollars.
I'll say I really support and agree with leaning into the apprenticeship programs, if only because this is something that's not going to go away. Like, we would not contract out our water system. You know, we know we're going to have to maintain clean water into perpetuity. As long as we exist as a city, as long as we own our water system, we will have to maintain it. Likewise for our trees, contracting that out is a temporary solution to maybe deal with a storm surge that knocks down a bunch of trees. But we should have an in-house forestry team that can handle some basic degree of maintenance across the city, and that should just be standard procedure. So not to beat you guys up at all. I understand what you're dealing with, and I understand the position we unfortunately have to put you in with, a limited budget, but it's screaming to me that it's not enough. And we haven't even gotten to a conversation toward meeting our goals to increase the tree canopy and provide shade in our parks and provide shade in our neighborhoods. So, I mean, we haven't even gotten to that. We're just talking about storms knocking down trees, of which one fell on my neighbor's house a couple days ago, oddly enough. So not looking to beat you guys up about it, but I do want to make it clear to the administration, like, this is not sustainable. This is not going to work. We're going to need to bring people in-house. I think we need to think of some creative ways to deal with the tree maintenance across the city. And it might not just be us. It may not also be paid for by contractors, but we got to be thoughtful here. I'll get to my next question, and my next question is about an issue that I deal with every spring, and I've met with some of the team on this, but this is around unpermitted gatherings. My least favorite topic for a couple of months during the year, and it brought up to me a number of issues around not only unpermitted gatherings and how we respond to them, but also our permitting process and how long it takes for folks to get permits to operate within our parks. As far as I'm concerned, I want people throwing events in our parks. That's great. It livens up the community. It works well. But when they don't get permits, we can't hold folks accountable. They also don't respect our neighborhoods. And so there's that balance there that we want to keep in mind of. What are we doing to improve permitting? How are we thinking about that in this budget? We dealt with this issue now 3 years in a row, probably well before I came onto the council. But how are we thinking about permitting, and how are we looking to improve the permitting process to make it as easy as possible for folks to hold legitimate events in parks, and then where they overstep their boundaries, we have an opportunity to intervene?
So I'm going to start this, and I'm going to ask Nicole to step into. This is something that we've been working close with administration on. There's a standing meeting each week where they're talking about upcoming permitted events in this city. But you're right, there are some unexpected, unpermitted events. We work close with BPD and others to try to find this information in social channels. There's been at least 2 events that we've actually shut down this year because we knew, like, as it was happening, to shut them down. But I think that's something that we will continue to look at, address, and try to identify. And we want to continue to have a campaign around encouraging people to go through our permit process. the permitting process, it all depends on what kind of permit. If you're just trying to permit a pavilion is one thing, and what we've seen is that people will come and permit a pavilion and say that there's going to be 50 people and end up being 200, 300 people. Well, we all don't want to relive the Brooklyn situation. And so after the Brooklyn event, BPD determined what is considered a special event, what triggers special events. And that number, I think Nicole will be able to share that exact number, but that is why we've added that layer so that we can protect our residents so that we don't have another Brooklyn incident. But that is a challenge because sometimes people are not truthful also in the permitting process. But permitting a pavilion is a quick process. It is when that number increases that triggers special events. And now we got to bring in all the different city agencies in order for that person to get that permit. So Nicole, if there's additional thing I want to, Ashley's going to address it. Ashley Bush is, you'll go to that one then. Introduce yourself in the position. Hit the red button, turn on.
Good morning, Ashley Bush, Chief of Special Events and Permits. So as the director stated, for rec and parks, our general use permits, our process is you go online and you can pay for your permit right away. So you get your confirmation that you've submitted and paid for your permit, and then we send you your permit 2 weeks out. A signed permit from our office. The challenge with permits comes in when it's the citywide process. So as the director stated, DOT special events handles anything that's over 250 people. If you have, if it's gonna have amplified sound, if you're gonna have structures larger than, I think, 40 by 40 tents, if you're gonna have some of those elements, then it kicks over to DOT special events currently at this time. Since I've been here over the last 3 years, we've been working with the city on this process, and we got really close about a year ago, and then OPI staffing changed and things changed. And so we are continuously trying to work on our engagement and how we help DOT to process. And DOT has done a great job in, trying to get permits out the door. Another challenge we have is that, there was a mandate given where we, have to, our response times, but the amount of permits that we have, the amount of applications that come in, and the amount of staff we have, some of that is a little bit challenging to do. And so while we've been working on it collectively, it is still a challenge in terms of getting all of these large special events processed and out the door in a timely manner.
I did want to just lift up too that the citywide effort is working, right? So while we don't catch everything, between different people in BPD and the mayor's office who are on different channels of youth gatherings and things that just come across social media, when we see those things, the collective city, we spring into action. If we see that Director Moore is having an unpermitted graduation throwdown, what would happen is this:
Director Moore,
the team that meets on a weekly basis would gather, right? They come and they say, hey, we see this flyer on Director Moore's Instagram. Is this event approved? And when it's not, we begin to reach out to the people through those informal channels, DMs on Instagram, trying to call the numbers, trying to purchase tickets to figure out how we can get to the organizers to say, hey, no, this is not permitted, to direct them to the correct process. So while it's imperfect, the citywide team, we have seen results over the last 3 summers. We're able to, 1, discourage people just popping up. 2, some people are innocent. They just didn't know they needed to go to a process, so direct them to the process. And then 3, having city resources available should the things still go on unpermitted. One of the things that is, I guess, the gift and the curse is people want to use our parks. That's a great thing. But directing them to the process, internally, we are working on getting QR codes available for the pavilions, for the structures, so people can know what they should do if they want to have access to it. And then we do have our small but mighty ranger team, right? Over the weekend, weekends, particularly in the spring and summer. They're roving. They're going around to see what's there. And when things look like it's not right, they're working with Ashley and her team to see if it's permitted. And then when necessary, engaging our partners at BPD. So it is imperfect, but it's much better than it was 3 years ago. We have a process that we lean into. It's a citywide lift. The city administrator has been very clear that we're all in this together. And if you see something, say something. So it's still imperfect, but we are seeing success. And this happens in every city in America. So when we are at our conferences, when Director Moore is on his urban leaders calls, we're trying to figure out what new things are you all doing to kind of curb this. So us thinking about the QR codes and having much more ready information for the average citizen walking around of who to call if there's an issue, we're hopeful that we'll continue to see a curve in those events.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've been to those unpermitted events in my early 20s. So you're right. It's not always. We're not a special. We're not special in any regard here. And I appreciate the work that we've done thus far. We're still dealing with the problem, especially in the spring. And so I want to continue to tweak and perfect what we've been doing here so that we continue to see the improvements. This year was a little rough during the spring. We had a couple of events back to back that really frustrated the folks in some of my neighborhoods. And so I want to make sure that we're thinking about what we can tweak and learn from, because we've gotten significantly better than we were 3 years ago. I'm curious, you mentioned earlier that the rangers go out to check sites. Do we check all permitted sites, or the larger permitted events? Which ones do we check? How often do we check, or is it random?
So remember, we have a small and lean team. So they're charged with riding by the swimming pools, riding through the parks. So again, Ashley's team sends out a permit list to the leadership of the agency so that they can know what's supposed to be around. But I want to be very transparent and honest. They're not going to every park every day to see what's going on. A part of their roving and having their eyes on the community and engaging is going to our larger parks, right? So because people know the larger parks are a little hot, there's more eyes on it, they are in the smaller pocket parks where we just don't have capacity to look at it all the time. But the more we know, the more we know. So we're saying, hey, every third Saturday in July, this group keeps showing up with, purple outfits on. It'll help us kind of target and to align city resources to respond to it. So we have found success in just getting people back in the process. Most people don't want to just break the rules, except for the young. No, most people don't want to break the rules. So when we direct them back to the process, Ashley and her team has been really good of actually walking them through the process. Usually their event is in 3 or 4 days, so they've blown every timeline that we have in the system, but still trying to engage them in the civic process. So at least next time they want to have a, fraternity party in a park without a permit, that perhaps they will follow the process. And then we have the thing that we can follow up, right? When we realize it's an organization or a group that has a headquarters, that has a place that we can call and send a letter to, then we do that follow-up. So for us, we really want to get people to know how to engage with the city. Working with our Mark-On team on different PSAs about how to access stuff, how long you should expect for your tree work order. So we're really going to be leaning into our team to develop much more educational campaigns about how to access and enjoy city services. We know that we don't always do an amazing job and make sure the public knows how to do it. So what you should anticipate from us is to see more social media campaigns about what you should know about how you access and do business with recreation and parks.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilman
Thank you, Madam
Conway. Council President Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I ask my questions, I'm going to make a committee request, and that is within 4 weeks, I would like a 2-page report by Recreation and Parks with suggested solutions to solving the tree backlog issue. As you have heard from several members of this body, including the chair, Councilman Parker and Councilman Conway, this is a persistent, ongoing issue, and it has been one for at least as long as Chair McCray and I have been on the city council. We need a solution. We can't continue to kick the can. I'd like that report, and then I would like to engage the administration to have a meeting with some council members to determine next steps forward. Director Moore, does that time frame work for you? Sure. Okay, great. Thank you. I want to get back to talking about challenges around overtime. So last month, the city's auditor released a report finding numerous issues with internal controls at recs and parks, including overtime. We talked about it at the Board of Estimates. Among other findings, the report found that the aquatics, community recreation centers, park maintenance, and urban forestry divisions did not consistently document justification for overtime. In some cases, timesheet approval processes were not effective, and this could result in overpayments to employees, and Rec and Park could not effectively estimate staffing needs. Such deficiencies in internal controls could open the door to waste, and in some cases, potentially fraud. The auditor made 3 overarching recommendations to improve internal controls at Rec and Park. We spoke about all 3 at the Board of Estimates. How many of the 3 recommendations have been implemented?
I will start, I'm gonna yield to my chief of staff, but I want to highlight that even during that report, they did not find any waste or fraud. And it was a 17%, it was 17% of the test pilot of people who didn't put in comments for their overtime. So it wasn't as if we didn't know what those people were doing overtime. They didn't finish the process, but we have addressed that, and I'll let chief of staff kind of talk about I think what we reported out in our last meeting with timelines of when those things was going to be finalized.
As it relates specifically to overtime, we had 4 corrective action items that we were going to do. The first is to redevelop our internal overtime policy that had a July 31st deadline. So all of our corrective actions, they haven't come due yet. So we are working with our HR team to make sure our internal overtime process is solid, that every employee has it, that they can sign off, that they understand it. But essentially, we needed to reaffirm for everyone that having the justification in Workday was a necessity. So the policy will be updated to reflect that. It'll be recirculated to all of our team by the end of July. Same with our training protocols to make sure when new employees come into Rec and Parks that they understand the obligation to get their overtime pre-approved. We do think that a lot of what was found in the audit was just housekeeping, that people needed to be much more intentional about how they were reporting their time, but there wasn't a sense either through the auditor's findings or through the experiences of our supervisors that people were working overtime without it being pre-approved. The record just didn't reflect that pre-approval had happened. The other thing that we know we need to do is that we need to increase our payroll team's capacity, right? We have at our height over 1,000 employees, and we have 2 people that are really managing that entire process. So we are in the process of reclassing a position in our fiscal division to divert that effort to assist in the payroll function. So overall, what happened? Go ahead.
Director, I'm sorry, Chief, what's the date on that reclass?
The date on that action is June 30, 2025.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
No, that's okay. And then the other thing is working with the city, BCIT, and DHR to get the comment field as a mandatory field. Right now it's optional. Like you can actually submit your time without having that field turned on. So DOF did respond that they would look into making that a mandatory field across the enterprise. So for us, we needed to re-educate the team about the importance of the Workday record being our official record, that people actually place that comment there so that when we come for an audit, we'll be able to see it. Internally, we had different systems we were using that teams can request their overtime for. So we're comfortable that no one is working overtime without it being approved, but we just need to tighten our housekeeping to make sure we'll have a policy, training, and then the Workday records reflect those things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I want to be clear, I'm not insinuating that there is fraud going on within the agency. I think, again, you all have, and you, Chief, particularly, have done a really nice job of, setting standards and holding people accountable. But where there is mess or housekeeping, as you called it, we got to rein that in because it contributes to the ongoing challenge of just a lack of fiscal control, as was identified in the audit. So appreciate your responsiveness and look forward to following up on that at the dates determined. My second question, and I think my last question, just the issue of charging our children to go to the city camps. I'm curious about that. I know we've been doing it for a couple years. I'm curious, one, how much actual revenue is recouped when we do that? And two, I think about kids who are financially insecure and whose parents or family may struggle to pay even a relatively small amount of money, because I know you all are not charging a ton for these camps, but we have a lot of families living in poverty in our city, and even a nominal amount can be really tough when folks are struggling to pay their BG&E and all these other things. So as I've been curious about and been pushing back pretty hard on every new fee and fine that we're rolling out, I just want to understand that in a little more depth.
Sure. So for us, one, I want to say we are extremely proud of our recreation team and the program division for what they've been able to do with our summer camps. We have an option for every family, meaning our lowest camp is at $75 for the entire summer, and then we have some camps that go up to $400 for the whole summer. We have weekly camps, we have 8-week camps, so whatever the family needs, I feel like we're very comfortable where we are. The team has went back over the years and has responded to feedback from the teams. We've expanded on our therapeutic recreation, we have STEM recreation, we have beauty camp. I would put our summer camp program up against anything in the private industry as a starter. But when we go back to fees, we're in a very interesting position because our fees are so affordable. What we actually are struggling with is how there's a correlation between the price of the camp and attendance. So this year, Karen's team will be being very diligent in collecting data, because that's actually what we're seeing, is that the lower the camp cost, there is a correlation with low attendance, but we have to staff like every young person is going to be there. So because the price point is so nominal, there are some families who use it sparingly or with less consistency. That has a negative impact on us because we have to staff for the kids that are signed up. What we hope to be able to see over this year is if that's a true correlation, that the actual low cost is turning into low usership, and low usership means that we have staff that are ready and available with no young people. That is not a good fiscal practice either. So I think what we're trying to do is to really take this year to kind of dive a little bit deeper into our attendance data to see what we're seeing. We want to see how much success we're having with our new and novel camps. We have a golf camp, right? We have a beauty salon camp, which I'm excited about. We have Lego camps. We have these week-long camps, and we have a whole summer program. So for us, we want to figure out how we offer the most robust summer experience, but one that aligns with our resources, because what we also know is that we have staffing ratios that we have to maintain to remain in compliance. So because our staffing numbers require young people's attendance, we need to make sure attendance is more aligned. So we've been asked this question if we think the cost of our camps is a problem. And I can say unequivocally, no, I don't think so, because we have so many different varieties for so many different families. We also have a partnership with DJS, where they have free camps. So I don't think camp cost is the issue. One of the things that we want to make sure, though, is that we have something for every family, because it's not just the regular camp you come and do arts and crafts and go swimming. No, there's a basketball camp for young people who want to be in sports and fitness. We have swimming camp for kids who want to be in the pool every single day. We have a travel camp that they go on 3-4 field trips a week. So I think the breadth of our camp is good. I think the price point is competitive and affordable. We could look into some scholarships or things like that if there are specific camps that seem out of touch for families, but that hasn't been our experience. Our experience is that people are astonished at how low our prices are, because again, for $75, you can go to camp for the whole entire summer. So again, I don't think that the price point is it. I think we got to continue to figure out how we maximize our staffing levels and being able to serve more kids. So when I was posed this question by someone prior to this hearing, My request is that we want more staff members so we can serve more kids. It wouldn't be that our price point needs to be adjusted, it's that we need more humans, more adults to give kids a fun summer.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Sure. You want to jump in? And
No, I was just going to say, as a caveat to that, is while we do want more staff and more people, we also have to, there's a mandate to the size of our facilities that also impacts those numbers. So some of our larger facilities can receive a couple more kids. And then the other thing I would say is that we, as the chief stated, we do have a partnership with social services that for families who are interested in camps, they can work with social services and they will pay for their summer camp too. And we set aside enough registration slots for social services so those families can also have that. I just wanted to highlight that. Yes.
Appreciate that. Let me re-ask that question and then respond. Part of the question, Chief Smith, was how much revenue do we actually recoup from charging for these camps?
We can get you that answer. I don't have that answer in front of us, but I can let you know what we received in each of our accounts for the last couple of years. The total revenue.
Total revenue. No. If you could break it down by camp, I'd be interested in it, but when can you get that back to this committee?
Yeah, a couple weeks at least.
If you can give us 2 weeks, I just want to scrub the numbers, make sure that I'm giving you accurate numbers on that for the camps.
2 weeks sounds great. Okay. Council services, great. Just briefly, fully understand and look, I respect the idea that generally people value the things that they pay for more than if it's for free. However, I do think there are some things that are public goods, and being able to have recreation, being able to participate in a summer camp in a public agency, to me, that is a public good. That should be something that we do for our kids. And again, I get it that there has to be some give and take within that. I would just ask that we think really hard about, to your point about social services or scholarship, that we do have a lot of families in our city where, again, even a small fee can feel significant. And I just think that being able to recreate should be something that every child in our city and in our country should do. And as we see the federal government begin to go in a direction of limiting people on food stamps and Medicaid, and sort of removing healthcare and other public goods from being public goods, I just think we internally in Baltimore need to be really thoughtful about what it is that we are paying through taxes for children and families in our city. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ma'am, Ms. Trueheart, we can't, please, thank you. Please, thank you. We can't disrupt these hearings. Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to follow up to the council president some question. My mother made sure that me and my sibling went to camp, but I had a mother who was going to go that extra mile. And she was going to ask for opportunities that maybe she could not afford. She was going to say, hey, is there a scholarship? Is there a stipend? Can we get this reduced because I want my kids to participate? Everybody doesn't have that parent. I'm being real. Everybody does not have that parent. How are we, to the council president's point, how are we engaging to let families know who may not ask that for these programs there are scholarships available or there is a reduced payment or something of that? Are you guys working with the school coordinators? Like, where's the engagement?
I'll start and then I'll look to Chief Jordan to jump in if necessary. So we do work with both our community engagement team to make sure we're getting the word out about summer camp opening. We use our social media to talk about when camps will open, to publicize the availability of payment plans should a family not have the full amount. So that was one of the adjustments that the team suggested, that there be a payment plan so that families who need to budget or plan for it, that they have that option. So between our coordination with our after-school program, so our young kids who are with us all year long, that's a starting point for us. We work with our community engagement team to get it out to the community that is happening, and then we use our social media to blast when summer camps are opening, when the registration starts, and to let the public know that payment plans are available.
What I would add to that, the creativity that we're asking for, maybe for every program. I don't know if there's stipends or scholarships for every program, but if there are, making sure that it's with every material that goes out advertising these camps. But that's where I would like to see this change. I would like to see it with more engagement, with proactive engagement with families so they know that it's available, just keeping in mind that every youth does not have someone who may advocate for them on that level, or may not know to advocate for them on that level until they may just see, hey, it's a scholarship available. It's funding available to get me within this camp. We're going to go to Councilman Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to follow up on youth programming, and highlight one of the partnerships you guys had with Volo Kids, the Volo Kids Foundation. I know they're doing work all across the city. Nearby Cahill, near my district, they have a basketball camp, dance at Middle Branch, soccer at Carroll Park, and the list goes on and on. And I just wanted to hear from you all, how do you think that partnership is going? And more importantly, are you guys capturing metrics or data for them on how the youth are how they are reaching the youth across the city, and how we can expand that partnership to provide more access to our kids when it comes to programming at these recreational centers?
Great question, sir. Yeah, we have always welcomed collaboration partnerships, and Volo Kids have been a great partner to help bring us volunteers so that we can get kids out, because every kid is not interested in, signing up for a basketball team. Some kids just want to run and play. So that collaboration, that partnership has worked. What we are also looking at is there other opportunities, other partners out there that can help support what we're offering to support our youth and adult sports team. And so that's something that we're also looking into, how we can continue to expand and collaborate. And then our rec centers are also expanding their programming opportunities. Each of the rec centers are required to have, their staff is required to have so many leader-led programs so that we can continue to make sure that we're meeting needs of our communities across the city where there is not a Volo Kids partner that potentially is a rec center. And so we can continue to collaborate and offer those programs in those communities as well. I will yield to Karen if there's any additional things we want to add, or Jacille, whichever one.
Good morning, Karen Jordan, Deputy Director of Recreation. To reiterate what Director Moore just said, we work closely with Volo to provide programs at our rec centers. My chiefs actually work with them and plan the programs with our center directors. Center directors are heavily involved with working with Volo.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, because hundreds of kids show up to the Volo Kids events, and whatever they're doing, it's working. And so whatever we need to do as a council, or you guys as an agency, to expand that partnership, to make it so we have just another tool in the toolbox when it comes to offering those free services and programming for our youth. Did you have something, JD?
I just wanted to state for the record that prior to serving as mayor, Mayor Scott helped to found Bolo Kids and is still currently a volunteer coach through the program that I think is serving around 3,500 kids in free programming across the city. So just wanted to add that for the record. Thank you.
Yeah, and for the record, I would just stay away from anything he's coaching, so. And I have one more question for this round. Last year, a year and a day ago, House Bill 1358 was signed, which is the work group and report for the city-state partnership, which would be the first city-state partnership in Baltimore for the Gwynns Falls Lincoln Park, which would be between Rec and Parks and DNR. I know a lot of constituents in my district are excited about that and the possibilities. But one of the things that I am concerned about is just the lack of understanding of what this partnership means and what it's actually going to do for Gwynns Falls Lincoln Park. Oftentimes I have to, bring a little bit of reality to the situation because folks think this partnership is going to be, dedicated ranges to the park and the building of buildings and all this great stuff, which will probably come along. But can you just talk a little bit about, just for general knowledge, I didn't know if any of my council members were aware of this, about one, the study, and then more importantly, what your expected outcome is, and then how would a city-state partnership potentially help Rec and Parks when it comes to fiscally, when it comes to manpower, and when it comes to just the upkeep and maintenance of the jewel of Baltimore and of the East Coast?
Yes, sir. We just recently came off of last week. We had 2 focus groups, one virtual, one in person at Cahill. I can't tell you what the outcome is because we're still gathering information from the communities, but what I can tell you, according to the House bill, by December of this year, DNR and Rec and Park are supposed to have a report that will explain what a partnership will look like. Also, it will identify all the capital needs for this park. One of the things also that's been highlighted is that there was some assumption that DNR Rangers was police officers. They're not. They're engagement officers like us, our Rangers are. But we'll talk about all those things from the safety, from the feedback, from the communities, from the group itself, and then what that report's supposed to do is submit it to the state, and then the state determines how they will move forward with any kind of funding. I don't know where that funding would come from to fund it. I don't know what the cost of the price tag. I've heard some really interesting things that's been coming out of the focus groups, what people would like to see. But I think for us, we want to continue the focus groups. We want to continue to work with the work group itself. And then the 2 agencies, DNR and Rec and Park, will work together to formulate a report that will highlight if the partnership was to move forward, here's how this partnership will look. Here's responsibilities of Rec and Parks. Here's responsibilities of DNR, as well as the maintenance, the rangers, jurisdictions, all those things will be part of that strategy that's coming out of those focus groups, is what the expectations of what we're supposed to have by December.
Thank you. And, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any expected outcomes, or is there anything you would like to see personally from this partnership that would either help or alleviate Rec and Parks duties, or the maintenance, or anything that you constantly hear about when it comes to Gwynns Falls Lincoln Park?
I would say we always welcome resources, right? If there's new resources that we can bring in through the state, I don't think no one on this council or Rec and Park or the administration would turn that down. So I just think we got to wait and see because I know DNR has worked with other jurisdictions on state park partnership, similar to what they're doing. I can't think of the counties, and I think Cecil County right now, a part that they're about to take over there. But they went through that same process. So I think we're all in interesting times right now, even at the state level. So all this, I think, is going to play a factor. Once this report is done, there will be a price tag. And the question will be is how do you fund that price tag? And all I would hope is that it's not a price tag where there's direct impact on our current budget, where resources is pulled out of our budget to fund this project. That would be my only ask.
Thank you, and I'll hold my other question for the next round.
Vice President Middleton.
I guess just to go back a little bit more conversation about back to the summer camps, and it sounds like transportation is really a big problem, and I think that's some of the things my colleagues have been mentioning, and I guess trying to stress that it's really time to think outside of the box and think more internally with other departments. And these are just examples. Department of Transportation, Department of General Services, they have new and innovative things and ideas with their fleet office. We need to really think our internal structure is, I feel, is formed where there needs to be deeper partnerships, to transport, or we have to start polling our families and actually seeing what is the hindrance of, why they feel it's the money, why we feel it's not. We have so many good things internally in all of our agencies. That's why we keep stressing, talk to some of these other agencies and work together, especially during the summer months where we need those partnerships more, especially for our young people. Respond to that, please.
I don't think our agency is opposed to any collaboration and partnerships, and we work closely with DOT and DPW on other projects. Councilwoman, I'm not sure if the challenge is transportation. We have camps in every community. Over 40 rec centers have summer camps. We have specialty camps throughout the city. That's just, so we try to be creative and innovative with making sure that we put those camps in communities where everyone will have access or it's in close proximity. I think the question that was asked is, should our camps be free? And I think there's more to be debated there because we've seen, I'll give you an example, our Be More Summer Fun camps used to be free. And we will have the camps maxed out, but on average, we would not see those 50 kids show up. But as the chief stated, we still got to have our staff show up because we are preparing as if 50 people are coming. So over time, this is the second year that we're charging Be More Summer Fun. Is that correct? And we've seen by even charging the $75 that we've seen the camp still fill up, but the commitment has been different. So what we've asked our team is, let's make sure that correlation makes sense. So I think we will continue to look at if there's scholarship opportunities that the council chairwoman McCray has asked us to look at, but I think I want to be able to look at this summer, put some data together that supports either we need to pivot slightly because there's more families that we're missing out on, or we're on track because there is, the participation is there, there's more commitment and buy-in. But I would yield to any team in my mind, but I don't foresee or heard that transportation was an issue.
Yeah, is there some camps like, there might be people that go to CC Jackson that might be interested in the golf camp, but they can't get over there. And it seems like, okay, we will pick you up at a certain time and drop you off there and then bring you back to the other site. Do you have those camp, that movement?
So transportation is a complicated thing, right? So transporting young people, there are different liability and risk issues that have since gone away. I'm an 80s baby. I'm from New York. My rec center had a van. They put us in the van and took us all across the city. Yes. So those things look different now for governments as governments are weighing risk and figuring out what happens. For us, we have a very small fleet of like 12 passenger vans that are deployed throughout the agency. I think we have four vans for over 40 rec centers. The question comes up in different forms about what transportation looks like. Like, should we be picking up kids from school and taking them to our after-school program? What I can tell you now through the work that we've done in the playbook is that transportation is a cost that we haven't even costed out yet. So what I know that Adam and his team does as they are looking at new capital projects, they are trying to they look at what transportation routes are available, what's accessible by public transportation, how far is it from the residents to walk. So those are the considerations we think about when we are looking at new capital locations or when we put more planning investments. But transportation is an ongoing conversation that we're having for our agency based on, I think, some of the challenges we talked about today. I don't know that us getting a new transportation fleet is something that we could readily do. And even with our partners at DOT, there's different types of licensing that you need to like drive a van. So because DOT doesn't routinely move humans in buses, there are not a lot of available bus drivers in DOT that could support that effort if we have it. So we have a small fleet for our older adults. They have a very nice bus, right? So we have a smaller fleet of vehicles that move people around. It's not something that we looked at as a long-term strategy because on its face it's cost prohibitive, but we do look at different things that would allow us to build capital projects that are accessible to multiple neighborhoods and not tucked away into the back of one neighborhood. So a lot of our things that we're doing, we do so with accessibility in mind, like how accessible is it? What pathways our young people have to cross to get to it. So those are the things that Adam's team looks at as they are planning new developments. But we talk about existing structure, it is trying to figure out how we maximize people's access to it. So transportation is an issue. We talk about middle school sports. One of the biggest issues is how to get the kids around the city after school. And all that has a price with it. So it's something that we're looking at. I would say that based on the things we talked about today, there are a number of things that we're looking at ahead of transportation, but it is top of mind when we're thinking about things. And one of the things that the program team does is to make sure there's something in every district. So while we may not have a camp at your local camp, we try to make sure there's at least a STEM camp in every district. We try to make sure there's at least a sports and fitness camp in every rec district so that it is accessible to the families in that district.
I appreciate that, but there is other things outside the box, like we're a college town, and they have lots of vans that transport students. We have a hospital system. They have vans that transport, that you need to sit down and have conversations with those folks to see how we can, other ways of helping out each other. Just really try to think of other, different things, because at the end of the day, it's all about service. And then this last question, we haven't talked about all the deer in our city, and we are just getting calls where, the deer is dead in the front lawn, and when you call 311, they're saying it's going to take 7 days or more to get which in most cases they come at least like the next day, but telling someone 7 days that's when they call our office, and we have to listen to their complaints, and then they're asking about, does Rec and Park or Forestry have a program or a plan to educate just how to deal with deer? Can you respond to that?
Councilwoman, that's perfect timing. We are working right now. We've received a grant from DNR, and we're looking at a deer management strategy and plan. And so this summer, we'll be having community meetings to talk about the different strategies that other cities have done to try to address the deer population. But I can tell you, based on our conservationist that we just recently hired, he talks about the percentage of our deer populations and how significant it is compared to other cities of our size. But that is something that we're going to be working on this summer. We'll have these community meetings to talk about the different strategies so that they can put together a deer management program that eventually will be presented to this body.
Thank you. I know your leader gets bombarded when he sees the word deer in emails and really, can't do too much about it this time. So I'm glad that there is something in place to get that moving and relieved.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Councilwoman Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just, again, thank the, the team, particularly on the capital side. You filled in the gap on the Reach Stadium, so one of the gaps on the Reach Stadium. I appreciate that. We're seeing some more improvements to Clifton Park. Finally, I have to say, so that's great. I appreciate that. I had related to capital, we are getting a lot more playgrounds, we're getting a lot more rec centers, which means we're gonna have a lot more overhead and trying to, maintain them as well. And so I couldn't tell from the park maintenance budget or from the facilities budget what that additional capacity is going to be needed for those repairs, particularly on our playgrounds, which have to be done immediately given the situation. So what's the plan moving forward? And I'm sure it's in the playbook, but if you could tell us a little bit more about, because we're not going to see it in the capital budget, we're going to see it here and here in this budget.
Great question, Councilwoman. Yes. And what we've done is that each year when we're bringing in new facilities, we're putting in enhancement funding around that. And so the administration did support the funding to operate these, because most of these facilities we open now are much bigger than the ones that we currently have. So there's funding there. There is warranty that comes with each of these buildings. So we should not see any incurred direct costs from the city, because these facilities, as they come online, will be under warranty. When it comes to playgrounds, I'm trying to find my slide, but I highlighted earlier, we're putting more money in park maintenance for playground maintenance, which is extremely important. I believe it's in 646. I just got to get to it real quick to tell you what that number is.
It doesn't have more money in here, it has less. But I think that's because you're moving one thing to, you're moving one of the services over or creating a new service.
But also as a bullet point, we are increasing funding by $243,000 for maintenance of our playground equipment. Yeah, so we are adding more money to go towards helping maintain our playgrounds.
And then the warranty you said is only going to be on the buildings?
Ma'am?
The warranty you just talked about is going to be on the new buildings?
It's on the buildings, but also it comes with a period of time on the playgrounds as well.
Okay. How long usually is that?
What's the playground warranty? It's a 12-month warranty. But vandalism kicks the warranty out the door. So we have not seen any to this point, but I just wanted to highlight that if it's from some form of vandalism, then we have to replace that. It's not on the warranty.
Right. Well, the warranty is only a year, though. I mean,
yes.
Wear and tear happens over time. So I want to make sure that we're seeing increases in this, over time, just again, and then some documentation of, and we'll see it. We'll ask for it again next year in terms of what the maintenance schedules are. How does that work? Who do we contact when we see something? That kind of thing. And I really need the right size pull-up bar at Lake Montebello.
We're working on that. I don't know why what's going on with the vendor, but Ed Willen has had an in-depth conversation.
I got two of the wrong size pull-up bars right now.
I don't understand. We sent pictures. They said they understood. We're gonna have a longer conversation with that vendor. But Ed is working with them to get the right pull-up bars. Correct, sir?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Council President, members of the board. Yes, my name is Ed Wheeling, Deputy Director of Parks and Facility Maintenance. Yes, we're working with the vendor to get the correct bars. I had a conversation with them as recent as this past Thursday. I'm going to be meeting them out there this week, and we're going to be getting the correct height made. They're going to have a custom bar put up, and we expect it to be done within the next 30 days, hopefully. hopefully sooner. I'm just giving that weather dependent.
Sure, we,
Yes.
like I say all the time, half of our job is managing expectations, so I understand, to give us a little leeway, but yeah, as soon as possible is great. With the late loop opening fully, we have a lot more users, which is what we want. So we want to make sure that gets taken care of. And that's part of the question around playground maintenance, because some of the equipment also has to be maintained as well. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I support you getting your correct height pull-up bars. Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Director, just for what it's worth, my Marine Reservist unit, because Lake Montebello, the loop is now back open, I convinced the unit to start doing our annual physical fitness test there, because it's the perfect length. 2 laps is our run. So it is critically important that we get those pull-up bars. Just a comment, super brief, just wanted to emphasize the importance of something that I think members of the council, the mayor's office, y'all I think we're all on the same page about. But outsourcing, and it might be a bit of a question, outsourcing contracts for recurring maintenance type situations, it's when we do it in-house, then it's easy to hire city residents. People get, it's union jobs. There's a lot of, I think, good reasons for it. I'm curious as to why we, and this is across a lot of agencies, right? This is not towards y'all directly, but for example, when we have these budgets for things that we know are not surging support for some issue or whatever, but predictable recurring things. Why are we in a situation where that's outsourced? Is it cheaper in the short term? Is it cheaper in the long term? What's the reason there?
I'll start and then I'll let my human capital guru add in. But, sir, I think it's a mixture of the amount of staffing that we currently have in-house versus the amount of service requests, and then sometimes it's responsiveness and skill set. For example, plumbing. We don't have a plumber in-house. We've had a position, but it's called a pipe fitter. So what I've had conversation with administration and DGS, because we are both experiencing the same. And so what we want to do to try to expand apprenticeship opportunities is that we're going to be working with DGS to create master plumber positions where each one of our agencies will have one on hand, and then we can partner and collaborate together to bring in apprentice plumbers to try to help build our workforce. But I think some of it's just balancing our budget, and the alternative is where you don't have maybe the manpower to fully maintain your assets. That's where you go out and you bring in a contract laborer. I'm not saying that it's cheaper, but when you start looking at OPMs and all the other expenses that's associated with an employee, then it somewhat balances itself out. But I think for us, it's just to balance our demand and our needs compared to the current manpower that we have on staff. Facility maintenance has 15 positions. We have 1.29 million acres. No, I'm sorry, 1.29 square feet of building space that we maintain. 15 people can't maintain that by themselves. And that's the value of us bringing in contractors.
Yep, so not much more to add. I think that what we're seeing is just decades of this not really being balanced, decades of the square footage continuing to grow, but not the manpower. One of the things that was important is that we needed to isolate facility maintenance as its own service so that we could better fund and resource what's actually happening. We're one of the fewer agencies we maintain our 200 buildings. We partner with DGS and limited resources, but for the most part, our buildings are maintained by Rec and Parks and our staff and contractors. Again, as I alluded to earlier, there is a mismatch between available skill set of folks. There's a mismatch between available actual positions in the city that have the titles that would draw the talent that could do those things. So what we're seeing now is us responding to decades of doing it wrong. The administration has been extremely supportive in us taking this deep dive through the playbook, us isolating facility maintenance so we can see it, we can better resource it. It has been hidden in park maintenance for so long, we can't call it out as an issue or call it out as a thing that needed to be better resourced. So now that we have its own service, we can come back to you all year after year, and we can see what it looks like when we have the investments. Director Moore alluded to it. When we are bringing new assets on, we're asking for the maintenance staff to keep that asset up. That's a different strategy too. So we are dealing with, like you would say, our backlog of failing infrastructure. 85% of our HVAC systems are failing. I think that number is 81% for electrical, and we have 15 people who are doing it. So in the right now, contract services helps us maintain what we have. Our long-term strategy is to make sure that all of our, that the 80% gap that we have in facility maintenance staff, that we continue to close that gap. But we're not gonna get 100 new employees tomorrow. Even if we got the positions from the administration, the available talent isn't there. So we have to balance staffing up, skilling up, and then also relying on our contractors to kind of fill that gap for now.
Yeah, and I might have worded that question poorly. I wasn't specifically interested in contracts on the maintenance side, but just, I think, general throughout the department. I just use that as an example. Do you know it's about a little over 19 million for FY2026 for contractual services. Do you know like the largest, outside of like surge support post-storm or, snow or whatever, the largest item that you have there?
Mowing. Mowing.
I think
mowing, that's, yeah.
Well, and I think it's important to understand that that object category that's presented in the budget book includes things like utility payments. It includes rent for any rent that they pay to DGS, and a portion of it would be external contractors. But that full $19 million is not 100% dedicated to external contractors. It includes other spending categories.
Okay, and thank you for clarifying that, Director. But I mean, it's mowing, like I'm sure we have the folks in the city who can mow, right? So I guess.
We utilize a mowing contract in Rec and Parks, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, and I will just echo is that maybe 3-4 years ago, we tried to make our contract smaller for smaller businesses to maintain. And Jewett Hill's a 700+ acre park. I had a small contractor come out with push mowers and thought he was gonna address that. So while we continue to try to find ways that we can bring in smaller businesses into our contracts, our current manpower in park maintenance compared to the number of acreage, we have over 4,500 acres of parkland that we have to maintain. The Lorenz of the world, it really is an efficient tool. 3 years ago, we was getting screamed at about mowing and that our grass was too high. One of the major things that's been changed is that during the summer months, during growth periods, we had to change that cycle. The cycle used to be every 10 to 14 days the grass was cut. Now during the summer months, growing months, it's cut every week. Because if not, I'm pretty sure your constituents will be calling you about the growth. So we'll continue to look at contractors like mowing, but at the same time, I don't know if we'll ever fully be able to just go away from just saying we will not have contractors doing it in our mowing.
Okay. And is it harder to in-house that because it's seasonal?
No, because it's seasonal and because it's seasonal and because the amount that we have, right? So the equipment it would take and the amount of humans it would take, at this point, we think that it is cost prohibitive. So we did try to pivot. When we had an issue with our contractor, we attempted to pivot to smaller contractors and to lean on our in-house crew. So our in-house crews do an amazing job, but their capacity is what their capacity is. So just based on the green that's in the city of Baltimore, we have to rely on contractors for that.
Yeah, I got it. And I guess my last thought there is just like, it's still money that's going to a contractor could be, I recognize it would be a lift and we'd have to buy stuff and create pins and everything, but like, I think that's the heart of the questioning is these things that we're paying contractors for, we could take that money and get more positions. I don't think anyone's implying that you need to be doing all this with the staff that you have, but that we need to be creating more staff or not. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And I think just to clarify on the $19 million for contractual services. So looking at Rec and Parks 26 budget, 3.2 million of that is going to utility costs. That's both for gas, electric, and steam, as well as their sewer and water charges. 4.8 million of that is going to fleet costs. So that would include their payments to DGS for their replacement assets, as well as their repairs that they would get from the fleet team. And then another of other line items that would fall in here would be telephone costs paid to the comptroller. That's $170,000. Rental of their Xerox machines, that's $180,000. So I'm happy to give you more of a breakdown of what falls into that category, but I think it's really important to understand that in an operational agency with Rec and Parks, that contractual item includes large expenditures, not just dollars that are going to outside firms.
Yeah, and Director, just that all makes sense. That's super helpful. I wasn't fixating on like the 19 million. It's more like the general question of the personnel.
Yep. And Faith Leach, City Administrator, I just wanted to offer another perspective. One, I think we actually have to have a much more nuanced conversation about what it means to contract out work from some of our operational agencies. There is no city that provides all of their services in-house. And a part of that is also a strategic decision, right? As a government, we have an opportunity to be, strategic and catalytic in building up our small business capacity as well, right? And the director talked a little bit about, actually it was my first year as deputy mayor where we had significant issues with some of our mowing contracts. We tried to divide our mowing contracts into smaller contracts. One, because we wanted to give some of those smaller contractors an opportunity to grow and to do business with the city of Baltimore, because they had not had an opportunity to get their foot in the door to be able to work with the city of Baltimore. And so while I understand and recognize and also support the idea of bringing more services in-house, it's a more nuanced conversation. And I do think that there's a space for the government to play in supporting and growing small, local, and minority business enterprises as well.
Thank you, City Administrator. Yeah, that's a great point about the opportunity to support businesses and help businesses grow. And I'm sure there are some situations where it's going to be financially prohibitive in X or Y situation to do it. But I think it's been a great conversation the council's been having with the administration over the last week about this. And so I think it's an important thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I agree with you. It is important. I hear what you're saying. It is a nuanced conversation. We're not going to move in-house to everything. And that was what my question, my follow-up was going to be, was about, because you had so much of information about other jurisdictions, was about how other jurisdictions, have you looked at how they were handling mowing and the percentage that they were using versus in-house to contracting? Because for this particular service, we're looking at it like, hey, it's just mowing. If some people who know my nieces mow, like it's like some things aren't hard to do, but also understand it with the ground that we have to cover, why it's so challenging and why we have this large provider who is covering a lot of what we need for this particular agency and others as well. For that, I do want to know, have you guys looked into like the percentage, or can you tell me more about what our neighboring jurisdictions are doing as well in this area? Or are they doing the same thing?
I can yield to the Deputy Director of Parks. I have not particularly looked. We've been really focused a lot on forestry lately, and what forestry's been doing, but if he doesn't have that information, that is something that we can definitely follow up and provide. But I can even just give you an example. In my previous employment, we had contract as well. We had contract mowers. Majority of Rec and Parks agencies around the country will probably have a blend of both. I don't know many agencies that have just fully in-house teams that's doing all their mowing, but I'll yield to the Deputy Director of Parks. And if he doesn't, like I said, I can get you more. We can do some research on that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Moore. I actually do not have that information. I know about some of the localities around Maryland, and I think they do a combination of both. Some do have in-house, but it all depends on the numbers that they have in-house staff to maintain that. But we can definitely do that research and come back to you with those numbers.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put it as a committee request. I'm just going to follow up with you guys about it. I'm not looking to say, hey, we're going to go completely to in-house, but what we are thinking about is, hey, can we stand up another team? Can we utilize, or when we keep talking about all these apprenticeships within different agencies, is there an opportunity to maybe stand up an additional small team to take on some of this work so we can reduce how much we're spending? But we hear you and we get this is not going to be completely Rex and Parks or just with the city to have a whole little mowing division or something for all of our properties. We do understand that. And thank you for answering or for the follow-up that's coming. Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to start by commending some really impressive numbers, and I suspect with the fiscal year 25, you may have even more impressive numbers that you might share in a moment. That is attendance at pools in fiscal year 2024 and attendance at rec centers, 185,000 versus expected 92,000, 16,000 compared to expected 4,500 in fiscal year 24. Have those numbers continued to be really strong in this fiscal year?
For aquatics, well, we're just into our second week.
I understand.
The initial weekend, Memorial Day weekend, was extremely cool. So a lot of people didn't want to get into the water, but our projection, well, let's bring in four new aquatics facilities online this summer. Those numbers will continue to traject high and up this year in our pool usage.
And for the rec centers, the story is the same. Internally, we started a process where we have rec stat. We have our policy and innovation team who we meet with the recreation team monthly to go over their attendance records, to go over the amount of programs that they have. So what we've seen is that the team is responding to having data in front of them so they can see how they stand up to their competitors inside of the agency, but they can also take a moment to actually see their impact. So what we've seen is that the more that data tells our story, both internally for us as a performance measure, and then externally to show to the general public how we're doing, we're seeing success. So our teams are programming better. We have data that tells us what the community wants, working better with our community engagement team to get feedback. So what we've seen is the more we lean into data, the better that we're able to see where our resources should go and to support those who are doing really well. So you should anticipate that our numbers will continue to increase.
I really appreciate that. I'm curious too, and I'm glad it's so data driven. I'm curious, is there some amount of that could be shared? So I think it'd be fascinating in particular, I guess I'll make this an official committee request to see the rec numbers and the aquatic numbers month to month, recognizing cold weather and all the rest, but it'd be great to kind of track that over the course of the year and have some sense of some of the dynamics at play.
Sure.
It'd be great. Tied into that, I know you all have a goal of reinvigorating, expanding youth council and finding youth voices of engagement and leadership. I think to give some of that qualitative data you're looking for around programming, things like that. Is there a strategy in place to build out that youth council? What are the next steps in terms of helping that youth leadership engagement be more robust?
Sure. So we just, we have a new person who is leading our teen division, Mr. Shalik, and we just restarted our youth council. They had their first event maybe 3 weeks ago where they did a community cleanup. So our goal is to have the youth council continue to, one, plan events for young people across the city, both that are civic minded, that help them engage with government and to kind of give back, but then also that give them an opportunity to talk to us about what they want to see and experience in our spaces. So the Youth Council, I believe they got re-engaged maybe 2 months ago. So they had their first community service event and I forgot the number, but it was an impressive number of bags of trash they collected, if Karen wants to jump in. But so what we've been trying to do is twofold. One, we've been trying to give young people leadership opportunities, but then also give them more employment opportunities. That was a call out from our Rec 2025 plan. When we did all of our community engagement around Rec 2025, we heard from young people, yes, they want to come to recreate, but they also want to come to work. So we've been leaning into making sure our numbers for youth work increases, and then also doing some cool thing with aquatics where we're actually engaging younger people. We have 14-year-olds who are working with us to monitor the slides. So making sure that we increase youth employment and youth engagement in our space is something that the team is leaning into.
Thank you very much. My second question is around aquatics. I know in the aquatics budget, you all called out an additional $107,000 for security services at all pool locations and increased costs for pool chemicals and supplies. On the security side, what do those increased security investments look like, either from a maintenance standpoint of how the structures are maintained or are rebuilt, secured, and then also from a human side? I mean, just help us understand that.
So the 107 actually is beyond just the security piece, is chemicals, but during the operating hours of all of our pools, we have security that's at our pools to help our staff with enforcement. When it comes to securing our pools, of course, we have fences around all of our pools, but we do understand, unfortunately, there's times where someone breaches those fences. As soon as our teams are informed, our teams are notified. We've recently had 2 instances at Patterson Park Pool where our team has had to come in off hours. They were temporarily secured, and then the next day they came in and fixed it. So our aquatics team is walking around before they get there every day. Another thing that we've done, because our pools are only open on the weekends right now until school's out, is that we're bringing our aquatics teams in 3 days a week. 3 days a week, and what they're doing is they're also monitoring, making sure that there's no breaches, and if there's breaches, that we're immediately responding by getting someone from facility maintenance to come out. So we'll continue to do that this summer. We want to continue to encourage our young people through signage and rules and everything. The importance that if there's no lifeguard, you should not be jumping fences, breaking through fences to get into our pools. We have 5 pool parties scheduled this summer for teens. So we're trying to be intentional that we're giving different opportunities, but I will tell you, unfortunately, the pool hopping and the pool jumping is just not a Baltimore City problem. It's a national problem. That when I talk to colleagues, Councilwoman, Chairwoman, I have talked to colleagues about what they're doing, and they're saying the same things. They're doing the exact same things. They're putting PSAs out. They're putting rules out. They're communicating with the community, telling the importance. But when someone breaches their pools, they're fixing them and securing them so that breach is not something where someone can continue, but now the city becomes liable because we didn't address that breach.
No, I really appreciate that, and I do want to thank the staff, both Rec and Parks, your crew that you sent out, and folks in the mayor's office who are really responsive to the most egregious one of those where a really low area was open, and so really small children. It wasn't, active, older, bigger kids, but really small children could easily just walk in. So, and it was over a weekend, and I appreciate that. I think I've been down a bunch, even in cold weather. I was there Saturday night. The pool had been open 8 hours that day already, and I was there at 8:45 that night, and young people from Highlandtown, from my neighborhood who knew me, recognized me. It's like, hey, Pastor Mark, what's up? We're there swimming. It was 61 degrees outside, friends. So I appreciate the persistence of young people who want to swim, right? I mean, absolutely. And I didn't even say anything to them. They just hopped out of the pool and were like, we got to get out. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you guys got to get out. So we kind of talked through all that. It was incredibly easy for them to scale the fencing, unbroken fencing, incredibly easy. And recognizing that folks want to swim and they're going to be persistent about it, I wonder if there isn't some upgraded fencing. For example, there's fencing around City Springs athletic field, which has the curves over the top. It's not barbed wire, it's not dangerous, it just actively prevents climbing over in the way that we can easily see at Patterson Park. I don't want anything in our recreational and park spaces to be inhospitable, to say to young people, you're not welcome here. And yet I also want to make sure that the kids aren't, to the extent we can, we're limiting our liability and protecting children, right, from being able to swim. And so I just want to encourage you all, as you think about, I was glad to see expanded pool safety as here in the aquatics budget, but to think about the options for in warm, welcoming, appropriate ways, still providing some upgrades, think about what upgrades to fencing could be that could just give a little bit more discouragement and keep young people a little safer.
And I'll just echo and share with you, as we're building new pools, one of the things we have been focused on is our fencing system. So Walter P. Carter that we're getting ready to open, Tawana that we're getting ready to open, Coldstream. We're going to continue to monitor to see if this fencing work. And then I think that's just an expense that we'll have to make over time to do that transition of the fencing. But we're hopeful. Our consultants, our design teams feel that this fencing that we're putting around these pools should curb that. We'll see this summer.
Yeah. And I do want to commend, I mean, the kids are getting the message. I mean, they knew they weren't supposed to be there, and I didn't have to yell, I didn't have to say anything. You know, it helps that, you know, I've worked a lot with our young people in Highland Sound. So they know they're not supposed to be there, but they really want to be there, and so that's the tension. So I appreciate the information is reaching young people now, you know, just to make sure that we can keep them as safe as we can. So, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Gray.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to try to be as brief as humanly possible. For the permitting process, we talked about that earlier. I just wanted to know if you guys had any plans or intentionality to make sure, because I know the rangers can't be everywhere at all times, but there's a system, there's a network that can be there for you. And I know every week DOT puts out a list that says, hey, this is the maintenance that's going on in your district, or just citywide, or notifications they'll send out. Is it possible for you to start up that type of network where each district, when you know there's a permit, that you can just simply send it out to the police department, to the council's office, and then we can possibly send it out to or if our liaisons know what community it's in, send out the community president, or like signage at said place if there's going to be an event that says there's an event happening in this park. It's for 50 people. And that way, if the police go by, if I drive by, if the community leader drives by and they see 100 people, it's an automatic phone call. Because right now, if I drive by and I see people at a park, who am I to say, let me see your permit or how many people are going to be there? But if we all were on the same accord and we knew what was going on, it would just make it easier in the process for us just to say, hey, this event is going on, or I didn't see anything about this event happening at this park. Let me go ahead and give someone a call because this is unpermitted.
I can start, and then if we need some assistance. So there's a citywide team that meets weekly. That citywide team talks about citywide permitted events. That call is attended by BPD, special events from DOT, our team, the mayor's office. So there's a citywide coordinated call that happens on a weekly basis to discuss citywide permits. Conversely, Rec and Parks, we could have 100 permits on the weekends from between our pavilions and different athletic space. So I think I heard you say, will we be able to post that there's something that's happening in this space? Yeah, I would say no. Yeah. But there is a weekly coordinated call where those citywide issues are discussed. They do go through the process of figuring out what city resources are assigned. And then they also talk about the things they've learned about that are unpermitted in an attempt to mitigate them. So the short answer is those internal calls to the city do happen on a internal planning and strategy basis, but is not made available to the public. When citywide events happen, though, they have to get a sign off by the local adjoining community. So during that permitting process, the community would have been alerted that on June the 9th, Director Moore is going to have his graduation bash. So they would have had to sign off on it, particularly if there's going to be amplified sound or they're going to need city services. So I want to respond that is happening on an internal basis. I don't know what information would be appropriate to share, I guess broader than that, as we're coordinating city services in response. But that coordination happens on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and internally, I get it, and for the police department, that's great. But sometimes I feel like information dies before it gets down to the folks that can actually see it with their eyes, and that's my concern. Mm-hmm. If we are sending it to our NCO officers instead of the major, you send it to the major, event is happening, but there's also numbers they have to keep down just district-wide that are, quite frankly, in their mind, probably more important than an event going on at a park. But for your NCO officer, it may even actually help them stop by just to see what's up. How are you doing? I'm the NCO officer. I can come and visit. And if we're doing that, we're being proactive and letting us know as well. It may not help for someone like James who has like the park and so many pavilions, but we have a lot of area in my district. But if I had like just a list, maybe if we're driving by, if I see something, I'll say something. But I can't see something and say something if I don't know if that something is illegal or not, because then everyone just becomes, it's almost like a police state where you're going to empower like said community association just to call everything in and just be a nuisance and be disruptive instead of them having the knowledge to actually be an asset to the process.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. So we previously sent, I believe that maybe it was last summer or the summer before last, we actually did start sending a spreadsheet of permitted events to members of the city council. I don't know if you all recall receiving that. I probably sent it a couple of times. This was when we were at the height of having those unpermitted events. But to Jasia's point, the larger point is we've gotten pretty well organized around unpermitted events. And there is this weekly coordination call that happens. We are also leveraging BPD intelligence as well as the intelligence of some of our leaders that are connected to young people to be able to identify when we believe that there are going to be unpermitted events, and then we're sharing that information with BPD. We also have a regular thread. This is a part of summer youth engagement, so where Lindsay Jackson, who was here, all the boots on the ground folks that are working in the community are actually sharing information in live time over the weekends so that we are sharing what intelligence we have about unpermitted events. But to answer your question, at one point we had a spreadsheet of all the permitted events that were happening for the weekend because we go through it every Wednesday at 8:30 a.m., every single Wednesday. And we've been doing that for at least the past 2 years. And so we started pulling together a spreadsheet with the permitted events, in part because, yes, we want to do enforcement, but there's also like a staffing requirement, right? So if BPD has a sold out event at the CFG, a Orioles game, just think about Memorial Day, right? And all the events that we had, their resources are going to be pulled towards downtown. And so we need to figure out what it's going to look like in neighborhoods. Same thing with DOT. And so that's the purpose behind this call. But to answer your question, I think I can work with the team so we can go back to sending the council people the permitted events that are happening in the park each week. But I'm pretty sure that we had done it previously. We might have just stopped the practice.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer because Memorial Day weekend, that's exactly what happened at Beachfield. There was this huge party, and apparently it's been happening for like the last 3 or 4 years. So the community was frustrated because they're like, they're doing this every year. Why is anything happening? So I definitely appreciate you if we send out the list, because I understand that the resources are everywhere, but if we know what's going on,
and
then we
if
can
you
help
have details about those types of events that are happening in your districts that happen regularly or annually, let us know so that we can work on our side. So some of the things that we've been able to do to get to the root cause of these permitted or unpermitted events, we will actually use intelligence from our like outreach workers and some of our staff. They will identify if it's a young person or if it's an adult. They will actually do the research, figure out who's organizing the party. They will get a cease and desist letter, go to their house before the event starts with BPD, try to deter them from having the event, right? So again, if you have that intelligence, feed it to our group so that we can, put our protocols in place so that we can try to, intervene in that event before it becomes some large unruly event that we can't manage.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then I'm going to go to my second question, but my son has a party this week and I got it permitted. Thank you, Ms. Bush. It may be more than 50 people, but don't. I'm just joking. Coming after me. And just briefly, I just wanted to know, I know we talked about the down trees a lot, and I wanted to inquire if you guys are partnering with some of our environmental organizations like Baltimore Tree Trust to combat and prevent diseases like the ash borer or like the lanternfly that are leading to the quick deterioration of our forests.
I can start and I'll yield to you, Matt, if I miss anything. But our team is always looking at collaboration with our partnerships, right? I believe we've done stuff with Baltimore Tree Trust. I believe we've done things with Blue Water Baltimore, as well as some of our other environmental teams when it comes to the planting of our trees. When it's more about the environments and the disease of the trees, I don't think we as partners as much. But Matt, if I miss anything, please jump in on that question. But I do know we're partnering, definitely around the tree growth of our tree canopy.
Sure, I can add a little bit to that. With regards to diseases coming up, emerald ash borer has been around for a while. We have been treating that. We have a number of trees that we're still treating. Some of the other pests, like spotted lanternfly, we've generally been providing information to people about best practices if they need to do something in their own around their house. Beech leaf disease is another disease that's coming up, and it's been found in Baltimore, and we have concern that that could take out most of the American beech trees in our city. This is very early on with that, and we've been collaborating with the U.S. Forest Service and other jurisdictions about trying to figure out what could be done. So we've got a number of ideas, but that's very early on. Although not on the disease side, I will say that we've actually partnered with Baltimore Tree Trust to get them to start doing some stump grinds. So they actually have a stump grinder, so they've been utilizing that to actually supplement what we're doing. So I think that's a good example of something that we'd like to see more of.
I definitely appreciate that, because anything we can work to do so we're not adding to that backlog would just be amazing, because now I'm going to charge you guys with being better, because we are always better than DC. And so if theirs is 2 months, ours at least can be 7 weeks as far as our backlog. We have better food, we have better people, and they can't have a better tree maintenance division than us. So thank you.
Councilwoman Ramos is going to close us out with just a brief follow-up question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just going back to the unpermitted events, May 17th was an unpermitted event in Clifton Park. We had gotten a social media post saying that it was going to happen. I sent it around to everybody. People said that they would address it, but it still happened. Nothing happened. Now, it was a small group, luckily, but it could have been a bigger group, and because we've had unpermitted parties in Clifton Park before. So maybe this is for the CA, but like, who exactly do we send those to when we get them? Because nothing happened. The major didn't do anything, Rec and Parks didn't do anything, DOT didn't do anything. I went and talked to the lady. Which I'm always happy to talk to people. But when you're asking us to send it to somebody, I'm trying to figure out who exactly, so that we know that it's going to be taken care of and somebody's going to talk with them.
Yep, so thank you so much for that question. So Lindsey Jackson coordinates the weekly call, and he coordinates all of the resources to respond whenever we have an unpermitted event. If the event did not grow to some large number of people, it is likely that we allowed the individuals to be able to do the event in the park as long as it wasn't disruptive, right? We want people to enjoy our parks and our park system.
Sure.
It is when those events become disruptive and unruly that we will go in and do enforcement. But if it was, a structured event, or if the folks were not being disruptive, then I can imagine that our folks allowed them to continue to have their event. But send it to Lindsey Jackson, who is in charge of special events across the city, and he will coordinate with all of the agencies to respond in that case.
Okay, thank you for that. No one had talked to her. We ended up having to move her from in front of the mansion to the band shell, so that, because there was an event in front of the mansion. So she just didn't know the process. So that's,
Yes.
and I want people to use our parks too,
Of course.
absolutely. So I just wanted to be super clear who we contact. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and thanks to Director Moore, Rex and Parks, the entire team. We're in recess until 12:30. At that time, we're going to meet with representatives from the Comptroller's office. Thanks again.